Sup, my fellas, don't forget to leave feedback and enjoy the story. Arpedia Online. It is known as the best virtual reality game. It uses a specially designed capsule to deceive the five senses and make what is happening indistinguishable from reality. The patented scanning technology allows you to create an avatar that will fully match the user. And all this is combined with the latest AI that makes NPCs and monsters behave as if they have real feelings. The game offers a fun and relaxing experience without too much stress. A lot of people speak well about the game, so Arpedia Online is the best Korean game. Because of the popularity, people began to follow the actions of new players. But one was being watched particularly closely, a warrior of the 50th rank, Bartz. The reason why he was followed more than the top-ranked players was because it was common sense to create groups in Arpedia Online. And Bartz was a hardcore solo player who defeated a dragon. There were many different rumors surrounding him. Some thought he was connected to the developers, or a rich son who made a fortune playing the game. But his real identity is unemployed Kang YuHan. It looks overgrown, but still in pretty good shape. Kang didn't even know where all the rumors about defeating the light dragon had come from, but he assumed that the forums were in chaos while he was staying with his grandmother. Suddenly, we see that Kang is in the game, but he's not wearing any clothes. Other players either mocked him or wanted to report him, and others were outraged that moderation didn't do anything to him. Kang was extremely embarrassed. He said that he would get dressed and asked not to report him. He opened his inventory, but his inventory is empty. Kang was shocked. He couldn't figure out where all his items had gone. He wanted to believe it was a bug, but there was no bug report button. Then Kang decided to take a look at his stats. He was even more shocked when he saw that he was a level 1 rookie. Then we see a scream coming from the shop where Kang was sitting. My mother came into the room. She was scared and thought that something had happened. Kang was desperate and turned to her. She was nervous because she thought that something important had happened. He turned to her and told her that he thought his account had been hacked. She didn't understand anything at first, but then she asked what account he was talking about. She clarified whether his account was hacked in the game. She was furious. She yelled at Kang for making a fuss over such nonsense. She reminded him of what he'd said when he dropped out of college, that he'd figure out his own life. Now, Kang sits at home all day and only sleeps during breaks from the civil service school. His mom left the room, slamming the door hard and saying that she was going to have a seizure soon from Kang's antics. Khan crouched in a corner and continued to whine about how much effort he'd put into Bartz. Khan has been called the best solo player, lone wolf, lone warrior, and dragon slayer. Kang then called technical support. An employee of the Dream Max company asked how he could help. Kang said he thought it was hacked. Kang sent a message and got a reply that everything was fine with the account, but this is not possible. The company employee then checked Kang YuHan's details and specified his phone number. The employee asked me to wait a minute because they are conducting verification. Kang was waiting for an answer and was very nervous because this means a lot to him. The employee said that Kang's account was created 4 days ago and that he didn't see anything suspicious on the account. Khan was outraged and said that his bars was created during open beta testing. Khan said that Bartz's level had dropped and his belongings were gone. The employee replied that he saw the character Kang was talking about, but that character was deleted 5 days ago. Kang was even more indignant and said with a raised tone that he had been at his grandmother's all week and didn't even log in, so he couldn't delete the character, which means he was definitely hacked. The employee replied that their security system is at the best level in the world. The employee regretfully reported that the problem may have occurred due to poor management of personal data. Kang was angry that the employee was trying to say that it was Kang's fault. The employee replied that their company recommends changing your password every week to avoid similar situations. However, the system says that Kang did not do this. The employee said that if Kang carefully reads the user agreement, he will understand that the company is not responsible for problems caused by personal data leaks. Kang was desperate and angry, and he hung up the phone, shouting that he understood. Khan knew that if he didn't delete the character, but Bartz disappeared, then it was because of hackers. Kang cried and said he didn't know who did it, but he wouldn't forgive the offender. Sometime later, in the same place, we see that a man in a shirt and vest came into Kang's room and told Kang that his mother had asked him for something. But when he entered, he was confused because he saw Khan, who was drinking, and in front of him was a frame with a picture of Bartz. Kang offered his brother a drink, but the brother refused because he is underage. His brother asked Kang if he had gone completely mad while studying for the civil service exam. My brother said that he knew Kang wouldn't succeed. Kang replied that it was only natural that he failed. After all, today is the day Kang lost his soulmate. He wondered if there was anything else to think about at a time like this. My brother said that he was sorry, but at the same time he thought that Kang was a loser because he played all day. My brother told me that my mother had asked Khan to bring a ladle downstairs. Kang said he was busy and asked his brother to go himself. My brother replied that it was time for him to take extra classes because he was a schoolboy and Kang was unemployed. Kang was angry at his brother YuHan for not showing any respect for his older brother. He looks down at Kang from a high place. Kang went down to the first floor and told his father that his mother had asked for a ladle. Kang, while choosing a ladle, said that he didn't know why mom needed a ladle, but the old one broke down while she was cooking rice. My father asked Kang what my mother was doing with the ladle since she broke it. Kang said that he had no idea because all items have a safety margin. Then Kang thought about something, namely the words about the safety margin. He started laughing like a villain. Then he realized something. He was very glad that he understood this. Kang ran out of the store so fast that his father's wig fell off. Kang ran to his room on the second floor. Then we learned that Arpedia Online has an item strength system. Everyone spends it during use. When the item's strength reaches 0, the item breaks. Therefore, players will look for blacksmiths who can fix them in advance. And in this case, everything depends on the level. The more expensive and better the equipment, the better the blacksmith who can be trusted with it should be. Kang wondered what would happen if there was a great blacksmith who would repair things for a song. Everyone will take their items to Kang. Bartz was equipped with top-notch equipment. The hacker couldn't just throw it away. If he sold everything before deleting the character, then Kang will be able to find the hacker and the traces of these sales. Kang decided that he would definitely crush the hacker when he found him. And now we see that Kang is already in the game. He was standing in front of a large gate, and a yellow ball with wings was circling above him. This orb greeted Kang in Arpedia Online, and then asked if Kang would like to enter the game. Kang replied that he wanted to create a new character. Kang then chose a random date of birth for the character. Char said that the character's birthday was on the 4th of April, and he asked if the name would also be random. However, Kang said that he would name the character himself and then thought about what name to choose, something short but strong, like Bartz. Suddenly Kang had an epiphany and came up with a name. He named his character Zigg. Kang called the name and the download started, and then the gate opened. The creation of the character Zigg has begun. Kang decided that it would be the name of the best blacksmith in Arpedia. Then we see Kang being told that he doesn't have a chance. Kang was baffled, and the blacksmith said it was a job that required endless patience and endurance, and it is not something that any player can challenge. It was Smith Pabuchi, the NPC blacksmith, who told Kang to get out of his forge if he understood. Smith pointed to the door and shouted at Kang to get out of here. Kang was shocked. We learned that there are two ways to get a production profession in Arpedia. Either buy a skill book or learn as you work. The second method allows you to earn money and gain experience in the profession, but everyone avoids it. The reason is that NPC artisans have strange personalities. Most of all, Kang tried to avoid Pabuchi Smith. After all, Pabuchi always got mad at Kang for no reason when Kang came to fix Bartz's equipment. At the moment, Kang has level 10 and 356 money. Kang decided that since he was out of money right now, he didn't think that the profession change quests would be impossible to complete. Kang knocked and opened the door, then shouted that he would like to become a blacksmith. Pabuchi came out and asked if Kang wanted to become a blacksmith. Kang replied that he would like to become the best blacksmith in the world. That's when Pabuchi said Kang didn't stand a chance. Pabuchi said that just by looking at Kang, it was clear that he would never make it. Kang tried to argue that it wasn't fair and asked me to at least check it out. Pabuchi thought about it and asked how to test Kana. Kang told Pabuchi that he could order him to do something. Pabuchi agreed, and then we see them standing by a huge number of logs that are much taller than Kang. Pabuchi told Kang to chop wood and gave him 1 day. Pabuchi said that he would reconsider the decision if Kang can handle it. Kang was shocked that he needed to chop all the logs. Pabuchi said before leaving that Kang could refuse if he didn't want to. Then we see Kang get to work, but the first blow missed and missed the log. Kang was a little confused as the log seemed to be dodging. Kang hit again, but missed again. Then again, but again the log didn't budge. The log seemed to dodge, and Kang missed again and again. After a while, Kang called out, asking why he had to do this. After all, others were immediately taught to work with a hammer. Then some guy with a band-aid on his face said that it seemed to be a matter of kinship. Kang asked him who he was, and the boy said that he was also a blacksmith's apprentice. A student asked if Kang remembers being asked his date of birth during character creation. The blacksmith's apprentice said that it seems that the date of birth determines the relationship with different professions. Therefore, the beginning of pumping can be very complicated. Kang hadn't realized it was so important. The disciple said that he was also stuck here because of this. Kang was in despair because he didn't know the importance of the date of birth. He thought that he would have to make a new character. But then Kang would need to re-enter the 10th level. Kang decided that it was better to focus on the task. Kang was motivated by the fact that Pabuchi Smith would definitely teach him if Kang chopped wood. So he set to work, but even though he missed, he still managed to chop wood. Kang was getting very tired of it, but he kept chopping wood. After a while, we see that Pabuchi is surprised that Kang finished in 1 day. At this time, Kang was lying on the grass completely tired. Kang said that it shouldn't be surprising that he did it in a day, because he said he could do it. Kang asked if Pabuchi would teach him now, but Pabuchi said he would never do that. Then he handed Dao Kang a sword and told Kang to get 10 pieces of black coal from the Rankle mine. Kang was skeptical of Pabuchi's words. After all, the recommended levels for the Rankle mine are 15-45, and the field boss of the Rankle mine, a level 45 raging boar. Kang said he might die if he went there, to which Pabuchi replied that Kang should therefore be grateful that Pabuchi gave him this sword. Pabuchi told Kang to decline if he didn't like something, and Kang thought about how bad his relationship was. Kang snatched the sword out of Pabuchi's hand. Then I asked him if he promised to make Khan a blacksmith if he completed the task, to which Pabuchi responded positively. Then we are transported to the Rankle mine. Khan has a mission to go to the location marked by Pabuchi and mine black coal, but so far, Khan didn't have a single black coal out of the 10 required. We see that Kang is hitting hard at the rocks, but misses. In his anger, he beat with all his might. But then I calmed down, because I understood that this is not a game in which simple brute force will work. Kang recalled the movements he made while chopping wood. He realized that he needed to gently grasp the hilt and give it a boost, like swinging a sword. He struck again and was notified that he had mined black coal. He chuckled and said that 2 years of experience had not been wasted. He was in high spirits and decided to continue, just imagining that he was swinging a sword. He struck again and once again received a notification that he had mined black coal, and so his task was completed because he extracted the required amount of black coal. The quest in the Rankle mine is completed. Kang has only to deliver Pabuchi coal and receive a reward in the form of promotion to blacksmith. Kang was walking on a field where a huge number of players were fighting. Kang said that the quest to change the profession was finally completed. He was looking at something on the menu when a boar suddenly appeared in front of him. He was shocked and nervous. He received a notification that the Rankle mine's field boss, Raging Boar, had appeared. The boar had 2 horns and 4 tusks, 2 on each side, and it screamed at Kang. Kang was scared to death. He started running away from the Raging Boar in tears. He ran around the battlefield and shouted at the other players who were similarly shocked to run away. As Kang ran away, he was thinking about the fact that the fierce boar is a boss that appears in a random place once a day, and Kang was outraged that the boar appeared in front of him. Kang was counting on leveling up the craft profession. The health points wouldn't be enough to survive even one hit. The boar screamed and its sharp fangs showed. The boar almost rammed Kang, but he managed to avoid it. Kang realized that the boar was only targeting him and there was no way to escape. However, in Arpedia, artisans aren't built for combat, but playing in virtual reality means that the character is connected to a real body, and the main emphasis is on realism. If you have combat experience or a sixth sense, you can win even in unequal conditions. And Khan, with his sword, pounced to meet the boar. The hero knew that the Raging Boar's weak spot was right in his forehead. No matter how weak the damage is, Kang will be able to win if he hits. Kang hit, and the sword bounced off. Kang was baffled by the fact that the boar blocked the attack. The boar decided to attack again and ran towards Khan. The hero, in turn, thought that his movements were too slow. Khan was annoyed that he would have been able to collect dexterity potions if he had known beforehand. The boar was already quite close and screamed horribly. Kang thought about what to do. He knew that the only option was to attack the weak spot. But suddenly Kang wondered if he should try to escape. However, he gripped his sword hard and said no. He asked himself why he was worried about an ordinary boar. He exclaimed that he was Bartz, although the character is no longer there, but the experience is forever with Khan. But suddenly, Kang was notified that he didn't have enough stamina and that he needed to eat something to make up for it. However, Kang and boar have almost collided and there is no other option. Kang knew he was going to die. But suddenly, an arrow flew at the boar, which dealt 30 damage to it. Kang was surprised by this. The boar with the arrow sticking out of it looked at its peeling horn, and then it cried and screamed. The girl wondered what she should do now. She said she didn't think she would do so little damage. The girl was dressed as an archer, which wasn't surprising. The boar scattered and attacked the girl fiercely. She was startled and wondered why the boar was targeting her. Kang shouted at her to shoot straight at the forehead, because that was his weak spot. She heard Kang and she clearly saw where to go. She fired a powerful shot and dealt 720 damage to the boar. An archer named Ja defeated a raging boar. Kang let out a sigh of relief as he said that he barely survived. The archer started to approach him. Kang wanted to thank him for his help, but she cut him off by grabbing his shoulders. She excused herself, then moved very close to him, studying his face, and asked if they had met before. And there she was, gripping his shoulders. She said he looked familiar, and then said she might have made a mistake. Kang was confused that the girl had come so close to him. He couldn't understand what had gotten into her. Then she asked if he could hear her. Kang was embarrassed and said while he was running away that he was very grateful for her help, but he had never seen her before and had to go back to completing the quest, so he didn't have any extra time to talk. She didn't understand, but she said they'd definitely met somewhere. We flash to Khan and see that he is holding up a bag of black coal. He thought about how he hadn't seen this mineral before. It seemed interesting to him. Pabachi said that he didn't even expect Kang to make it, but Kang was able to surprise Pabachi. Kang was outraged and asked why they should have sent him on a mission if Pabachi knew it was too difficult. Pabachi replied that he had to admit that he was wrong about Khan. According to Pabachi, with such a self-control, you can work, and then Pabachi said that he was hiring Khan. Kang was glad and elated that he was finally accepted. Suddenly, a yellow flying ball appeared out of nowhere and asked Kang if he wanted to become a blacksmith. Kang of course responded positively. After all, he went through so much for this. And so he received a notification congratulating him on becoming a blacksmith. Kang was incredibly happy. Kang thought about how the life of the blacksmith Zigg had begun and that he would one day become a legend. To do this, he needs to overcome all the stages from beginner to ranker. Pabachi then told Kang to follow him. We are transported to the smithy and see that Khan is already sitting with a hammer in his hands in front of the anvil and forging a sword. Kang hit the blade, but the impact caused it to warp and bend because Kang hit it too hard. But Kang exclaimed that it was perfect and wondered what talent he might have. Pabachi said it was nonsense. After all, this does not even cut the sheet. Pabachi forgave Kang for the first time, but warned Kang not to bring such again. Kang tried to protest, but Pabachi silenced him and ordered him to make 30 short swords. And he said that if Kang brought even one ugly sword, he would be fired. Kang was heartbroken that Pabachi was yelling at him. After all, he had worked day and night to do this. Then he exclaimed that he would make the best short swords. Kang was holding a sword that had a crack on it. He stared at the sword, trying to figure out what the problem was. Then he wondered how good swords were made in the first place. A cheap short sword is a low-quality sword made by a novice blacksmith that is difficult to use due to its terrible condition. Kang knew he couldn't convince that bald-headed miser Pabachi like that. Kang was tired, as he seemed to have been up all night sharpening his sword on a rock when suddenly this happened. He saw that there were some blue lines on the sword, and the sword itself was without cracks. Kang saw that the other swords also had lines on them, but the lines were different. Kang then went to his colleague and picked up the sword. Kang looked at the other blacksmith's sword and noticed that the lines of the sword were very crooked. Kang pointed his sword at the blacksmith, who was shouting at Kang asking what he was doing. Khan asked the blacksmith if he could see, which startled him. The hero said that there were blue lines on the blade, but the blacksmith loudly said that he could not see them and called Khan a psycho and asked him to stop waving the sword in front of him. Kang took a closer look at the sword, then simply tossed it aside, saying that he didn't understand anything and that it was better to do the quests for now. We see a notice that says that the blacksmith must know how to fix things. Kanu needs to repair 5 broken axes and give them to Pabachi. Kang picked up the axe and looked puzzled. He saw that there were red lines on the axe this time. Kang decided to use the hammer for a bit, as he expected the red lines to disappear when he repaired the item. Khan struck the already cracked floor and shattered the blade. He failed to repair the item. Kang said that he clearly had no talent for it. The hero looked at the hammer and noticed that the damage coincided with the direction of the lines. Suddenly, something shocked Khan. We find ourselves back in the blacksmith shop after a while. Pabachi yells at Zigg for having to do everything quickly and then spends a few days tinkering. He saw Kang, who was standing over his workbench, and walked towards him. Pabachi came up with a question about how much more time Kang would need for 10 short swords, and also reminded him about the repair training. Pabachi came even closer and was surprised. There were quality swords on Kang's workbench. Pabachi was shocked, holding the sword in his hands and looking at it. Kang asked how good these swords were and then asked if they were perfect. Kang revealed the shocking truth after several days of crafting and repairing items. First, the blue lines are traces of a hammer striking metal. The shape depends on the strength and distance between the strokes, and the quality depends on the gaps between the lines. Second, red lines. These are cracks in the metal structure that appear as a result of a breakdown or unsuccessful repair. In theory, if you use this understanding correctly, you can perfectly repair the item. Roughly speaking, this is a cheat that helps you process equipment. Kang hadn't slept for several nights, but it was worth it because he had obtained an amazing ability. Pabachi then startled Zigg by shouting his name loudly. Pabachi smiled and gave him a thumbs up and said that Kang had done a great job and Pabachi had nothing else to teach him. Kang was surprised and asked if Pabachi was serious. Pabachi replied that this was true since Khan's skills were already at a sufficient level. The blacksmith said that he was very surprised because usually such untalented guys quickly give up. Kang suddenly thought about it and then asked the blacksmith if there were any people who completed these tasks without having the talent. Pabachi shook his head and said that there were no such people, they didn't have enough patience. Kang then asked Pabachi about the lines, but the blacksmith said he had no idea what Kang was talking about. Kang suggested that there was a high chance that this ability was related to a hidden achievement. and the condition for getting it can be a promotion to blacksmith in the course of training from an NPC without having any relationship with blacksmithing. Kang didn't recall seeing anything like this on the internet, so it's possible that he was the only one who went through these difficulties. This means that only he has the ability. Kang smiled and said that things were getting much more interesting. Then we see memories of Bartz being asked why he was so determined to be alone. Bartz repeated the question of why. Kang thought back to how he was bullied at school by his classmates. Kang replied that he wanted to be alone because people couldn't be trusted. Suddenly, Kang woke up in a sweat of terror. He breathed a sigh of relief. It was just a dream. He passed out because he didn't get enough sleep. Kang wondered why Dad had even told him to keep an eye on the store if there were no customers. At that moment, someone called Kang. Kang looked at it and said that this was the first time he had seen this number. He still took the call. The voice on the end of the line greeted Kang, and the man introduced himself, saying that his name was Yang Ho-sik, and he said that he was the support manager for DreamMax. Kang wanted to throw it off, but Ian asked him not to. The manager asked Kang if he had contacted them about the hacker attack a couple of days ago. Suddenly, Kang's sullenness disappeared and he asked if they had decided to restore his character. Yang said that they can't do that and violate the company's policy, but he offered Khan a small compensation. Kang asked if they wanted to pay off the lost character. Khan said he didn't need any compensation and asked them to call when they decided to reinstate Bartz. Yang said that they wanted to offer the latest model of a virtual reality capsule for $8,000, but he asked if Kang really wasn't interested. Kang imagined the cost of the capsule in bills and salivated. Kang shouted that he should be more specific from this point on. Then we are transported to another location, to the beach with the Côte d'Azur and palm trees. A man asked another man if Kang liked it. The person who called Kang answered, and Yang said that Kang initially wanted to refuse, but then agreed when he heard about the capsule. Yang said that he thought Kang would be grateful to Director Sung. Song said he was glad to hear it. Ian asked if it was worth going so far, since Song even bought the capsule at his own expense. Director Song said that Kang was hacked and removed the character, and he continued to play this game, and also chose the blacksmith class that everyone avoids. Sung said he was curious about what Kang will showcase in the game's next update. As we flash back to Arpedia, we see an ad that Ja has put up about finding members for a group to go to Deborah's dungeon. She wondered why it was so difficult to find participants. As soon as she finds someone he immediately refuses, she just wanted to go with the three of us. She was walking down a busy street and bumped shoulders with someone. She looked at him and they both apologized. They recognized each other and pointed, and Ja said he was the guy the boar was chasing. Ja said she was glad to meet him and wanted to ask him, but Kang ran away with the idea that it was better to leave before she got caught. She caught up with him, surprising Kang, and asked him to talk for a while. Kang continued to run, and Ja continued to invite him to chat. Kang stopped because he was tired and asked her what she wanted. She asked him if he would like to join her group. Ja said that Kang probably wasn't in Deborah's dungeon. According to her, they say that this is a good place for a beginner where there is a lot of experience and money. But in reality, the discoverer of the Deborah dungeon was Bartz. Ja said she was looking for people she could go with, but so far only 2 have responded. She said it would make 4, just the recommended number, but Kang didn't hesitate to say that he didn't want to. She asked what the reason was, since they often run into each other, so she thought it would be a good idea to invite Kang. She asked why he didn't like this idea, because it was easy money and good leveling. But Kang looked away. He still doesn't trust people, but he didn't tell her about it and said that he didn't want to just like that. Then we see how there is a long queue for the Keen. In the queue, people said that Kang is good at fixing, although it takes longer, but repairs up to 100%. Kang had a sign saying that he repairs for 30 gold coins, which surprised everyone. Kang was tired, wiping the sweat from his brow as he thought that maybe he should ask for more money since he didn't expect such a crowd to gather. Then he slapped himself in the face and decided that he didn't care about earnings. The main thing was to get revenge on the hacker. Khan was then handed a ranger's bow, which was the only piece of D-rank equipment Bartz had. Kang wondered if he'd found the hacker's trail so quickly. Kang examined the weapon, but there was no mark on it. The customer threw 30 gold coins to Khan, showing his ignorance. 2 guys were standing in line and one of them asked the green-haired guy if he was really going to give her the bow. The green-haired man replied that you need to invest some money in the girl if you want to get her. Kang was furious at this and thought about how this wasn't a dating simulator. The red-haired man said that they were going to help her in the dungeon, and also give her an expensive bow. He asked the green-haired man if it was too risky if she refused to meet him in real life. The green-haired man answered with a question. He said how would she want to be so rude and refuse when they had done so much for her. Then the green-haired man said that if she did merge, they would write all sorts of things about her on the general forum and press her to drink with them. Kang heard all this and felt sorry for the girl they were targeting. The red-haired man urged his partner to write to her. According to him, you need to remind yourself so that you don't forget. Her partner asked her what her nickname was, and he said her nickname was Ja. So Kang repaired their bow and turned to the customer. He reported that the repair was complete and handed the bow. But when the green-haired guy wanted to take the bow, he couldn't do it because Kang wouldn't let go of the bow. Kang was thinking that the girl's name was the same as the one on the poster that Archer had given him. In Arpedia, all names must be unique. Kang realized that they were probably talking about her. Kang relaxed his hand and let go of the bow, but the green-haired boy fell to the ground with the bow in his hands. The red-haired man asked his partner Zeris if he was okay. Zeris was extremely angry with the blacksmith. He took Kang by the t-shirt, leaned over and asked him if he wanted to fight. Zeris ordered Khan to apologize immediately, otherwise Zeris promised to force Khan to delete the game. Suddenly, a man in the queue said that the repair was finished and asked them to move away already. He ordered them to stop detaining the others. It wasn't just any man, it was Storm Guilford, the leader of one of the strongest mercenary groups, the Red Tigers, as well as a well-known ranker which takes the 45th place on the server. Guilford was slightly gray-haired, with red eyes and a beard. This person was standing in line for the blacksmith. Everyone was surprised by this. Guilford held the sword in his hands and thought that he had many pleasant memories with this sword. Guilford had asked blacksmiths before, but since the sword has a strength of 10, everyone refused. So if Guilford doesn't get any help, he'll have to find Gyron. Guilford, who was standing in line, saw two guys standing at the blacksmith and was indignant at why they were making others wait if everything was fixed. Guilford told them that the repair was already finished and asked them to stop detaining the others. Zeris was terrified that a ranker had appeared here. Zeris apologized for making them chat a little. Then, as they ran away, they wished Guilford a good day. It was Guilford's turn, and he said that as it turned out, these guys were polite. Guilford held out his hand to Kang and said that it was his favorite sword when he was still a novice. Guilford asked Khan if he could fix it. Kang replied that anything was possible and asked to wait a minute. Guilford watched and thought that even though Kang could only repair low-level equipment, a 99% result was amazing. Guilford wondered if Khan had a hidden skill. Kang swung the hammer, thinking that he needed to concentrate, because why worry if it didn't concern him? But then Kang started replaying the situation in his head and remembering Sue, it bothered him. Guilford was happy and thought about stopping by the guild when the repairs were finished. But suddenly, Guilford's sword broke, Khan failed to repair it, and the 1.5 sword became unusable. Guilford was shocked. He picked up his sword and started whining about how it was broken. He wanted to say something to Kang, but the blacksmith wasn't there. Then the yellow flying ball reported that Mr. Zigg was out of the game. This shocked Guilford even more. Guilford was furious and gripped his sword so hard that it shattered even more into small pieces. Then we are transported to a cave and see that the same archer, Zeris, and his friend are standing there. They were standing in front of the cave that Bartz had discovered. This dungeon is Deborah's dungeon. The red-haired man said that this was the lair of the dreaded witch Deborah, who had plunged the Longboat Kingdom into chaos 300 years ago. Zeris told her not to be alarmed, since this was a beginner's dungeon that they had cleared many times before. They were about to go, but someone interrupted them with a shout. It turned out to be Kang, who was standing up and trying to catch his breath, but was still glad that he had made it. He asked them if it was true that they were a team in Deborah's dungeon. She recognized him, but instead of addressing him by his first name, she called him Mr. Ungrateful Blacksmith. Kang was outraged by this, but just said that she saved him and all he does is run away all the time. She said that he probably decided to go to the clearing with them since he came. Then she thanked him and said that she was an archer of Ja. She held out her hand to him, but he paused and looked down at his own. Kang didn't shake hands and said his name was Zigg, asking me to take care of him. She felt a little awkward about it. Then she introduced her companions, pointing to Kang, who she said was the blacksmith she was trying to invite to join the group. She also introduced Alden and Zeris. She said that they were experienced players with a level in the region of 70, but Zeris and Alden were a little uneasy. They realized that the blacksmith was standing in front of them. Zeris wondered what he should do. Then Zeris said that the blacksmith didn't have any combat skills and asked if Kang was sure he would be fine. Just said that it was fine. She called Kang strong and said that she saw it herself. Zeris replied that even if that was the case, Khan was a craftsman. At the same time, Zeris was thinking that this was the first time he had ever heard a blacksmith called strong. Suddenly, Kang exclaimed that an amazing coincidence had happened. He said that Alden and Zeris were the guys he met during the repair process, and that Khan had made Zeris and Alden uncomfortable. Zeris nudged Kang with his shoulder, but Kang was amused. He apologized for what had happened then and asked to be taken care of. Kang said that he wouldn't say anything. He said that they shouldn't worry because he would be a loyal dog. Zeris was surprised by this and didn't understand what Kang was up to. Still, Zeris offered to stop by and said they'd already wasted a lot of time. Alden asked if Zeris was serious because Khan might say too much, but Zeris said it was fine. Zeris whispered to Alden that if Khan opened his mouth, they would set up an accident and kill him. However, according to Zeres, it's best not to try to chase Khan away so that the girl doesn't suspect anything. Kang stood behind the squad and looked at the two hooligans. He knew they were dangerous. As soon as they entered Deborah's dungeon, they saw that there were many skeleton archers and skeleton swordsmen as well as wooden monsters. Alden used spinning fire, and Zeres, in turn, used a circular cut. Just stood off to the side and wondered what they were doing. Zeres was thinking that she had already fallen in love with his splendor, but suddenly it wasn't Zeres she was saying that. She asked Kang about how he managed to do it. We can see that Kang was not afraid to fight with a crowd of monsters. From Bartz's experience, Khan knew that the weak point of skeletons was their temple, which was why Khan hit the temple. After a blow to the temple, the skeleton crumbled. But before Khan, there was another opponent, namely the wooden monster. Kang knew that he didn't have any combat skills, so it would be a problem to get surrounded by monsters. Therefore, you need to clean up everything as quickly as possible. Kang charged at the wooden soldier. He knew where the tree soldier's weak spot was. Kang stabbed the wooden soldier. The tree soldier's weak point is the source of power, the heart. Kang was again notified that he didn't have enough stamina. However, the good thing is that Kang took a cookie with him. Zhu was delighted that Kang could kill with a single hit, even without any skills. She asked Zeres if he saw it, just like she said Zigg is very strong. Zeres was furious that Khan had received Sia's attention, not him. Zeres was also angry because the noob dared to act so. Zeres looked at Khan with a snarl and thought about how he wanted to be lenient and drag Khan along with him, but changed his mind. Zeres decided that he needed to get rid of Khan right away. Then we see the skeleton archer aim at the heroes. The skeleton archer's arrowhead was unusual, it glowed with something purple. Zeres was ready for the skeleton's attack. The skeleton slashed its sword straight at the arrowhead. He made a counterattack, but this arrow bounced off and hit Kang. Kang was shocked. It hit him just below the shoulder, but it didn't hit him. Zeres was happy with his new hidden skill. He knew that Khan would be hurt because this skill doubles the damage. Jia asked if Kang was okay, but the hero received a notification that he was paralyzed for 10 minutes and his movements would be slowed down. Kang tried to restrain himself, but he replied that it was fine because he was only hit by one arrow, but Kang thought that he was in a lot of pain because he just turned the sensors to maximum. Zeres said Kang looked tired. He said that was expected of a craftsman. Alden scoffed at Khan, too. They asked Kang if he would like to stay here and rest until the paralysis was over, as they said they couldn't carry Kang on their own. Just shouted at them not to leave Khan here. However, Kang said he would stay. The hero said that he would catch up with them after a short break. Alden said that Khan was right, because they knew each other's location because they were in the same group, so there was nothing to worry about. Jia wondered what she should do. She said she would accept Khan's decision, but asked him to write to her when he was free of his paralysis. So the two Alden, Jia, and Zeres moved on, but Khan stayed behind. Kang opened his inventory and selected a green potion. Kang then opened and drank the potion in a flask, and he got a notification that he had taken a simple antidote and the paralysis effect was removed. Kang said it was time to start and smiled. As they walked, Zeres asked if the bow was really light, and Alden said that it went well with her equipment. Zhu was embarrassed and asked if this bow was really cheap because it looked decent. Alden said that it was a common thing for their level and asked her not to worry. Besides, they're not archers and they'll be more useful. She said that in that case, she would borrow this bow for the duration of the dungeon hunt. Alden thought about Jia being so happy and whispered to Zeres that it was time to go. Suddenly, something happened to Alden's staff and the staff began to shine stronger. Then it went out and fell to the floor. When the heroes were left in the dark, Zeres asked Alden what he was doing. Alden said it wasn't him, and suddenly a rock fell. Zeres asked Alden to turn on the lights. Alden groped for the staff in the dark and finally found it. The light immediately lit up and they saw an army of skeleton knights. Alden was startled and froze. Zeres noticed that Jia was missing, but they needed to deal with the enemies first. Jia, meanwhile, had already run away. The skeleton knights continued to attack, as did the tree soldiers. Zeres and Alden were terrified as a large number of enemies started attacking them. Then we see that while Jia was running, someone grabbed her bow. She couldn't see who it was at first, so she shouted at the man to let go of her bow. The man had a torch in his other hand, which allowed Jia to see that it was Kang. Jia was confused because Kang should be paralyzed, and then she asked Kang about where they were going. She said that she needed to help those two. Kang told her not to worry and asked her if she had mentioned that their level was around 70. Kang said that this dungeon is recommended for players around level 45, and that the two of them can handle it. Zeres and Alden made it through. They had just killed the last monster, but they were exhausted. Zeres was thinking about who could have collected all these monsters. Then Zeres saw something and shouted at Alden to watch. On the floor in front of Zeres were many items of medium rarity. Alden was overjoyed and asked if this kind of thing happened in this dungeon. However, Zeres asked what the difference was and then shouted faster to take it. They were going crazy at the thought of how much money it was worth. but suddenly someone ordered them to stop right away. This man flexed his fists and said that he couldn't believe that these two people decided to take all the things for themselves. This girl recognized the same Zaris and Alden from the forum. Zaris asked her why the low-level non-entity was talking to him like that. Then we see that the evil girl said it was their stuff, and there were 3 other people standing behind her. The girl's name is Wang and she is a level 100 player. Zaris and Alden were known on the forum for girls in the game. They convinced some people to meet in real life. No one knew what happened at these meetings, but after that, the girls didn't log into the game anymore, so it's unlikely to be anything good. The problem was that there was nothing others could do, as it was impossible to contact their victims in the game. So Kang decided that he had to get this here forever. Then we see what Kang was doing before the monsters attacked. He collected the monsters and then threw a rock at the other party. His plan is quite simple, especially for him, who knows all the nuances of Deborah's dungeon. The monsters killed that squad. They asked him not to do it because it's their stuff. Kang went to their things and saw some object there. At this time the dead players were angry at Kang because it was he who set a crowd of mobs on them. This is a dungeon attack, a popular tactic of the past that everyone hated. Kang was going to make it look like they were the ones who attacked that group. Those players that Khan had set a mob of mobs on were angry, and one of them said that he hoped Zaris and Alden were prepared for the consequences. Zaris and Alden started to make excuses, claiming that they didn't do anything, but the players didn't listen to them because the 2 of them were wearing the players' items. Khan knew that if he did, Zaris and Alden would be forced out of the game forever. Then we transfer and see that the team list is open. Just said that the 2 men were logged out and then asked if they were really dead. Kang said that they had written to him in private messages saying that they had urgent matters to attend to. Jia asked Kang why they didn't tell her, but Kang said he didn't know and suggested she ask them the next time they were online. However, Kang knew that these characters would never appear in the game again. Jia didn't argue and asked if they were going back. Kang responded positively and said that going further would be too difficult for them. Sia was level 42, while Kang was level 38. Kang's goal was achieved and he decided that it was time to return to blacksmithing. Just before the gate, Jia said that she was very sorry because she wanted to clear out this dungeon because she couldn't play anymore. Jia seems to have come to terms with it, and Kang is surprised by her words about not being able to play anymore. Jia smiled and offered to go back, but Kang asked her to wait a moment. He was embarrassed and didn't know where to start. Kang then asked about how since Jia was here, why not try to defeat the boss? Kang suggested that she defeat the boss. Kang said that he understands how difficult her situation is. Kang said that she couldn't think about memories from the past without tears in her eyes. As he teared up, he thought about how he should give her memories that she wouldn't forget. She replied that she didn't know what Kang was trying to say, and then asked him again if he was offering to hunt the boss. Kang said it was true and asked her to just trust him. Kang looked up and was surprised. He saw that Jia was already standing at the gate to the boss lair. However, the doors had already begun to close. Kang ran as fast as he could. He barely made it and almost pinched his ponytail. Jia asked if 2 were enough to defeat the boss. Kang replied that the boss is at the level of a stone golem, so anything is possible. Then he said that as long as he is around, there won't be any problems. Kang boasted that he knew Deborah's dungeon like the back of his hand. Deborah's dungeon, which Bartz had cleared hundreds of times. Kang, he says, can't make a mistake even if he wants to. Can shoot 2 birds with 1 stone, help her, and at the same time raise your level. The dungeon was surprisingly quiet and Jia asked him why nothing was happening. Kang replied that the boss would probably show up, so they would have to wait. The stone golem is usually in the form of a boulder. Suddenly, they heard a squeal and then they saw the little hamster Kang was sitting on. Jia was thrilled that the creature was so cute, so she asked if it was a monster. Kang knew it was a hamster sitting on a golem. Kang stroked the hamster and said that the golem was somewhere nearby, and then told the hamster to call his friend. Suddenly Kang was afraid. He sensed the golem approaching. The floor beneath the heroes shifted, and Kang was shocked that the golem was sleeping right under them. They moved away and the rocks flew up. The stones began to connect with each other. Then, the golem connected completely with a strong rumble. The golem's eyes glowed with something yellow. It's a giant level 60 stone golem. A huge automaton made by Deborah, a guardian who guards the dungeon. The golem started shouting at the heroes, which scared Sia, and she asked if they could handle it. But Kang was unperturbed and said that they could do it if they followed the strategy. Then the hero immediately rushed to the golem's feet. Jia shouted that she would cover and aimed her bow. She shot at the golem, but only dealt it 40 damage. The golem noticed and aimed at her. He shouted and slapped at Jia, but she managed to jump back. Meanwhile, Kang was running with his sword. He was behind the golem and called out to Stonehead, but Khan distracted the giant's attention. He slashed out with his sword and dealt 15 damage. But then, we see that Kang actually took the damage himself, even though it was his attack. The stone golem pounced on Khan. He managed to jump out from under the blow. However, this jump was still low as Kang's stats are much worse than he thought. Kang knew that in order to defeat the golem, he would have to climb on top of the giant's head. At the same time, the hero wondered how to do this. While the stone golem was waving its arm, Kang noticed that an arrow was sticking out of the giant's arm. Then Kang realized what he needed. Jill was worried about Kang, but he asked her not to come any closer. He instructed her to shoot at the golem's joints from afar. She understood his command. She started shooting at the golem and dealt some damage to it, but that wasn't the target of her shots. And now we see a lot of arrows sticking out of the golem. Kang stood to one side so that the golem wouldn't touch him. Kang held a bottle in his hands and said that now he could see the way. Kang drank the potion and climbed onto the golem in an instant. Kang jumped over the golem. He knew that the golem's weak point was the core. However, the sneaky Dream Max stuck it right on top of your head. Kang drove his sword into the top of the golem's head. Kang was glad to be there. The cracks that appeared as a result of the impact glowed red. Kang said that now you can get a reward, but suddenly the golem threw Kang away. The stone giant screamed and clutched its head. Kang, meanwhile, was falling from such a great height. But Jia had caught it. She asked him if he was okay. Startled, Kang replied that he was fine thanks to her. Kang got up to catch his breath, but Jia said that she would distract the golem so Kang could hide and heal. Kang smirked and asked her what she was talking about since they had won. But then Kang saw that the golem was still standing on its feet, and its entire body was sparkling with something red. The golem had now transformed into a rampaging giant stone golem. This is a condition that occurs when a golem's core is damaged. The golem can no longer be controlled, and its attack power and speed have been increased. The top of the golem's head was open and rocks, probably fragments of the core, were visible. The golem was furious and tried to kill the heroes. Kang thought that this couldn't be happening. He took this dungeon too lightly, because I've cleaned it out hundreds of times already. Khan wondered what the reason was. He assumed that it was because he was seeing this pattern for the first time. But then a realization came to Khan. He was killing Golov like Bartz, not like Zigg, so now it didn't work. Khan's sword broke during the battle and the hero seemed to have already accepted it. But Jia fired a powerful shot. Kang was surprised that she had saved him once again. Jia suggested that Kang hide and take a break, because they don't have enough health points. The golem searched, but couldn't find any heroes. Jia and Kang were sitting behind a rock and she said the exit wouldn't open. She supposed she should deal with the boss first. Jia said that she tried to get into the core, but nothing worked. Then she asked Zigg if he was even listening, but Zigg was heartbroken. He said they wouldn't win and let out a tear. Kang said that this is the first time he has seen such a thing. It is some kind of hidden pattern that opens up under very specific conditions. Kang said that they could crush the golem with damage or determine the attack strategy, but the level is too low. He said it was better to find a way to die with the least pain. The hero said that they had no options, because their level is not enough to understand the new pattern of attacks of the golem. However, Jia replied that this could not be the case. She said that if they didn't know, they would find out. The archer asked if it would be better to try to fight to the end, since defeat was already inevitable. Kang tried to object by saying something about levels, but Jia said that she was 42 and Kang was 38, which makes 80. Kang protested that it didn't make any sense, but Jia said that if they worked together, they would find a way out. She shouted for him to run faster after her, and then said that he would wait. Then we are transported back to our memories. We see Kang's brother asking the hero if he dropped out of school. The brother asked Kang what they should do if Kang didn't say a word. Hyung asked Kang if he remembered beating up the guys who... Hyung said that Kang was bigger, so there was nothing they could do, but now things have changed. According to Hyun, Taepyeong Kang is skinny, hunched over and a bit creaky, bad at school and constantly playing games. Kang was indignant and asked Hyun what he was trying to say. Hyun asked Kang to pay attention to the people around him. The younger brother said that he didn't know what had happened at Kang's, but Kang could tell him or his friends. As he left, Hyung said that Kang might not believe it, but there were many things Kang would never do alone. Then the younger brother called Kang to eat, saying that mom made kimchi. Then we see a gust of wind. Jia attacked the golem and dealt 97 damage to it. Jia reached her limit, running out of health points, mana, and even stamina. The golem swung back, but Kang grabbed her shoulder and dodged her as well. The golem hit that spot, but luckily it didn't hit Jia. Kang thanked the archer for buying her some time. Kang stood up and said that he had already recovered his health and stamina points. Kang admitted that Jia was right, they were going to die anyway, so at least they would fight. Khan picked up the pickaxe and decided to get it all or nothing. The stone giant golem immediately swung at the blacksmith. However, Kang was not afraid and decided to hit back with a pickaxe. With this strike, he dealt 180 damage and chipped off the golem's finger. Then Kang jumped back. He was surprised that it worked and assumed that the pickaxe was the golem's weakness. However, Kang couldn't figure out what it was since the pickaxe doesn't have any attack power in the system. Kang decided to hit the golem's arm again. However, this time it didn't work for him. Kang first thought that there might have been a bug, but then he realized that a message pops up about a miss, which means it's definitely embedded in the game. Kang began to think about what the application condition would be in this case. Suddenly Zigg shouted to Kang that he was being attacked from above. Kana was attacked by a giant stone golem. At the moment when the golem almost hit Kang, the hero saw blue lines, something like gaps. So Kang remembered what Pabuchi had told him. Pabuchi said that ore is a combination of different materials. Although it becomes a single unit under high pressure, there are gaps between different materials. Back then, Pabuchi had said that you couldn't see them at Kang's level, but if Kang got right into those gaps, he could get something incredible. Then we see Kang hit the golem with a pickaxe. The hero now perceives the golem as prey. Kang stood on the golem's arm and hit the gap with his pickaxe. The golem's arm shattered into pieces, and the golem itself was shocked. Kang took a step towards the golem, then said that he understood now. Khan smiled and told the golem that he understood its weak spot. The giant stone golem was enraged, and with its remaining arm, it decided to hit Kang. However, the blacksmith said that it was loot. Kang hit the golem's hand with a pickaxe and it also shattered. The stone golem became even more enraged and started shouting. Kanu received a notification about successful mining. The hero got 10 marbles and his mining skill was increased by 30. Zigg, who was standing on the side, exclaimed that it was unbelievable. She was shocked that Kang destroyed the boss using a crafting skill. We can see that the golem now had no arms or legs. Kang walked up to the golem, then smiled and hit the golem once more with his pickaxe. This time, they managed to defeat the golem, as the notification came that Zigg and Zigg had defeated the rampaging giant golem. Then we see that Kang is holding a stone that has been knocked off the golem and thinks that the ability to see lines is also suitable for mining ore. Khan found this strange, because when he had tried to concentrate and look at them earlier, it hadn't worked. But in the end, Kang was able to defeat the golem, which surprised the hero himself. Happy Zigg then ran up to Kang and asked if it was possible that Kang had defeated the boss with a production skill. However, Kang chuckled and said it was a firm secret. Kang said he couldn't just tell it. Then they vanished from the place. Then the heroes were transferred to a room that had many different mechanisms and gears. Zigg asked what kind of place it was, and Kang said that they had defeated the boss, and after the boss comes the reward room. However, Kang said that she had to go and wondered about where they were. Zigg said that she had a feeling that mobs were being made here. Khan wondered if Deborah's dungeon rewards room looked different. Khan speculated that this might be Deborah's lab from the rumors. As Zigg looked around, the blacksmith thought that this was the first time he had ever seen such devices. He assumed that they had been thrown here because of the victory over the rampaging golem. Zigg then pointed her finger and said that there was a chest here. The blacksmith was overjoyed and said that this was the reward room after all. Zigg took out her eyeglasses, eagle eyes that increase accuracy, range, and skill from her chest. Kang ran into her and asked her to show him this rare item, but Zigg said that she didn't want to show it because it was her own thing. Kang said there should still be a minimum of 2 chests. Khan found his own trunk, too. He opened the chest, but saw that it was an ordinary artifact. The blacksmith put on the witch's gloves, which give a plus to protection and magic power, saying that it's better than nothing. He then picked up the next item, which was half of the Guardian blueprint, after which Kang would be able to create the black iron that Deborah was trying to design. Kang was incredibly excited to be able to make a robot. However, then he saw the conditions of creation and realized that he could not do it. The last item was the hero Kerwin's manual. These are the recordings of the hero who defeated Deborah. If a blacksmith reads them, he will gain skills in understanding the structure and destruction of weapons. The conditions for the structure comprehension skill are a lower affinity for blacksmithing, a completed Rankle dungeon quest, and a production skill of rank 6 or higher. The conditions for the weapon destruction skill are the loot skill, defeating the rampaging giant stone golem, and the 7th rank structure comprehension skill. At this point, Kang can already use the structure comprehension skill. It was written in the book that defeating a witch's golem was not an easy task, and a giant golem was even more so. But then Kerwin heard the idea from a blacksmith. All ores are made of different materials, so you can always find gaps between them. These words allowed Kerwin to destroy the golem. He cultivated the ability to see the boundaries of all materials and developed a skill that allowed him to take this ability to a new level. The understanding structure skill. The more Kerwin developed it, the easier it was to mine ores and break equipment. That's how Kerwin learned weapon destruction. Kang was happy to read this because the ability to destroy weapons amazed him. Kerwin wrote in the book that the battle with the witch is not over yet and she will definitely return and bring a powerful army with her. That's why Kerwin destroyed her cave. Kerwin said that he hoped those who came after him would be able to understand how to fight the witch's golems and give battle to her army. Khan began to think about the fact that the battle with the witch wasn't over yet, and also that Kerwin's skill could only be learned by a blacksmith. Zigg asked Kang if he liked the reward. The hero said that the reward was good. However, Kang was elated because the reward wasn't just good, the blacksmith had obtained a hidden skill, which made him very happy. Just suggested that we go, but she said that she looked in other places but found nothing. And now the heroes are already at the entrance to Deborah's dungeon. Just said she felt like she hadn't seen the sky in ages. Khan said they killed a whole day to do it. In real life, 8 hours had passed. Ninja got nervous and said that she needed to get out quickly. Kang was embarrassed and wanted to say something to her, but he didn't know where to start. But she interrupted him, asking him how old Khan was. Kang replied that he was 20, and then she held out her hand to him, saying that they were about the same age. She offered to be friends with him. But as Kang stood there, unable to decide, Ja asked him if he would shake her hand. Kang came to his senses and shook her hand. Ja said that she added Kang to the messenger and that she will write after the exams. Kang was confused and asked about the exams again. Ja said that her midterms were starting and she wanted to clear the dungeon before they did. She promised that she would be back in 2 weeks. Ja said they could have put it off until later, but they had a good time. Now Kang understood what she had meant when she said she couldn't play anymore. Ja then told him not to be sad and slapped him on the back of the head. The impact was so strong that it caused Zigg to have a crack in the skull as well as a broken neck. Just said that if anyone saw them, they would think they were saying goodbye forever. She said it was only 2 weeks and would pass quickly. But then a notification appeared that Zigg was dead and Ja killed the player and became the killer. Ja was shocked that she had killed Zigg. Zigg asked her to pick up his items. Ja screamed that her name was read and shouted what should she do now. However, Kang tried to calm her down. He asked her to pick up his items already. Then we flash forward and see the Dream Max van pull up to the family store. He delivered the Dream Max game capsule. It's been a week since the stone golem hunt. All this time, Kang had been building up the skill of understanding the structure. Thanks to this, the skills of creating and repairing items got a 100% chance of success, and the quality of the equipment was impressive. In just a week, Kang became a famous Bolden master. Kang entered the game with the new capsule that the director sent him and felt more realistic. Then he heard someone shouting, and he saw that there was a large crowd standing there and asking him to fix their items. Kang said that he had a quest today and wouldn't be able to do any work. But then people in the crowd started asking him to make at least their weapons. Then someone started talking about how the Slime King had appeared on the Urk plane and needed to go there faster. The crowd heard this and was surprised because the Slime King is a super rare mob. They all ran there. After that, a man approached Kang. Kang was thinking about how the Slime King couldn't possibly have appeared on the Urk plane. The man had told Zigg that they could talk in peace now, that someone came to hire Kang. Then we are transferred to real life in the Academy of Civil Servants. We see Khan sitting at his desk. He was writing something in his notebook so fast that he even surprised a classmate who saw it. It's been a month since Bartz was hacked. Kang had already gained some fame, but he still hadn't found a trace of the culprit. Most of the equipment was high quality, so Khan needed to level up the character, and he started looking for a way to do it quickly. To do this, he chose the quest Nosark's trade route. If the quest is successfully completed and the trade route stabilizes, big changes will come to Arpedia, which will lead to an update of the game. How he thought that he couldn't miss such fun. A quest from the Longboat King was recently announced, in which you will travel with a delegation along a new trade route to the land of the dwarves, Nosark. The quest was submitted by the king himself, so many expect that the amount of experience and rewards will be high. Nosark is the land of a race of blacksmiths, dwarves, and Khan can't pass up this opportunity. Kang knew that the problem was that his level and reputation were too low. If he submits an application in this situation, he is guaranteed to fly. Kang wondered what to do then and became nervous. Then we flash back to Arpedia and see the man who came to hire Khan. He introduced himself as Dylan, head of the Bolden branch of the Gold Rush Trade Association. He said that he had come to invite the man who had become known as the Bolden Mending King to join their guild. Dylan said he was confident that he could offer decent conditions, so he urged Khan to go. At this point, Kang thought that maybe he should at least try to leave a request. Dylan asked if Khan was listening at all, to which Khan replied that he wasn't. Dylan got angry and asked if Kang could listen at least once. Kang said that he wasn't interested in guilds, so he asked Dylan not to waste his own time. Dylan laughed and said that Khan didn't seem to know about the gold rush. Kang replied that he knew about it. He said that it was a merchant guild that was always in second place. This angered Dylan, but trying not to show it, he laughed and said that even second place is a very high position. Dylan added that they planned to move up to second place soon. He asked Kang what he thought, if Kang would like to help them become the best in Arpedia. Dylan even said that he could offer a special bonus, but Kang immediately interrupted him by saying that he didn't want to. Dylan chuckled and said he thought so. Then he asked Kang to let him explain the steps for joining. It was only then that Dylan realized that Khan had said he didn't want to. Kana whispered that it was obvious how they would deal with an ordinary blacksmith. He said that he wouldn't even be able to participate in a group hunt. Merchant guilds are always forced to plow for them, and pay for items at the cost of materials. Kang asked if they were different in any way. Dylan was embarrassed, laughed, and said that such guilds also exist. Then he thought about it and asked Kang what he thought about the partner position. These are usually offered to high-level players. Dylan said he didn't have to do anything special. He said that Kang can register on their guild's homepage. Dylan said he would become Khan's manager if he kept in touch periodically. They won't have any obligations to each other like full guild members. Dylan said they can pay back with money or information to create and repair gear. He said that if Kang likes working with them, he can always become a full-fledged member, and if not, he will inform about the refusal in half a year. Kang began to think about it. He darted from side to side, and finally made a decision. He agreed and put his nose-picking hand on Dylan's shoulder. Khan asked Dylan if he could listen to the request. Dylan was taken aback. Then, after a while, we see Dylan riding in a carriage. He was corresponding with someone from the guild. Someone had asked Dylan if this was too good an environment for a novice blacksmith. This someone asked Dylan if he was sure that his premonition will not fail and Kang will definitely become known. Dylan said it wasn't just a hunch, it was an experience. Dylan said he had already seen a low-level player who surprised everyone with his crafting and mending skills. It was about Gyron, he is the best on the server. Dylan said he was talking about the greatest artist, some of whose pieces sell for millions. The person with whom Dylan corresponded said that then he would wait for Khan's results. Then he asked what had happened, because Dylan had brought back most of the bonus money. Dylan replied that Kang had asked for something else, so Dylan took the 90 grand. We flash forward to see Kang standing in the crowd and looking at the list of people on the first expedition. Zigg looked at the list and saw his name on it. He was glad to be chosen. There wasn't much time, but the big guild didn't disappoint him, and he was also given a 10k bonus. Khan wondered if Dylan would start making strange requests to Khan. Then Kang thought that it didn't make any difference because he needed to prepare for this quest. We're transported to Bolden's East Square, Joe's Bakery. Storm Guilford is the leader of one of the strongest mercenary groups, the Red Tigers, and also a well-known ranker, which ranks 45th on the server. Right now, he came to the bakery and is standing in line. Everyone was surprised by this. Finally, it was his turn, but there was a sign that said everything was sold out. Guilford was shocked that the cookies had run out, because this is the first time he's seen such a thing. The woman behind the counter said that the previous customer had taken everything. The woman said that Guilford could ask for the previous buyer, but Guilford immediately turned around. He grabbed the previous customer and shouted at him. Guilford asked Khan if he had filled his inventory with cookies and why Khan was so greedy. He saw Kang's face hidden behind a mountain of cookie wrappers and recognized it. He gripped Kang's clothes even harder. Guilford became very angry and shouted at the blacksmith. Kang also remembered that he had smashed his sword and was very frightened when he recognized Guilford. But it turned out that Khan didn't remember Guilford, so he asked him to remind him who he was. Guilford was shocked by this. He shouted that Khan had destroyed his precious sword. Guilford was already furious with Khan, but then he disappeared and a notification appeared that Guilford had left the game. All the members of his group were shocked. They didn't understand what had happened to their commander. Then we are transported to the real world and see Guilford. His wife shouts at him for what he only says and does not do. According to her, Guilford told her to leave the dishes for him, but his wife had already gone to get groceries and he was still playing. Guilford told his wife, but was about to say that pulling the cord was too much when his wife interrupted him and screamed. Then we are transported to another room and hear Guilford telling his wife to wait because the elbow should not bend so much. Then he said that it doesn't mean that it's better to turn your legs. He screamed and begged her to let him go. We are transported to another room with a bow hanging on the wall of this room and goblets for the first place on the shelves. In this room, a girl sat and heard the screams that Guilford was making. It was Ja. It turned out that Guilford was actually her father. She said that she asked him to be quiet because she had a school year. She got ready again because she only had a week left, another week. Then we are transported to the gate of the Longboat Castle, where a group of freight forwarders will gather. There were many carts and people at the gate, and a man shouted to his friend to look at something. They saw that the Red Tigers were also participating and were surprised that Guilford himself was here. The participants discussed that since the Red Tigers are here, it means that the quest will be the simplest. Guilford ordered a very careful search for Khan. Guilford said that Kang had bought a lot of food, which meant that he was probably participating in this quest as well. Then we see Kang himself. Not far from him, a girl in a red uniform shouted that she was selling basic necessities for the quest, cheap. She turned to the blacksmith and asked for a moment of his attention. She asked him if he had ever been suddenly attacked by monsters on the road. Kang thought about it and couldn't say anything, but then this girl didn't let him say anything and replied that of course there were such cases. She said that she always thought that people in industrial professions should have at least one guarantee of survival. She asked if she was right and Kang agreed with her. However, he thought that if it was a huckster, it would be better to break off the conversation and quickly go somewhere else. She said she recommended the subject to Kang, a magic ring with teleportation function for only 10,000. Kang could not restrain himself. He understood that 10,000 is cheap and already thought about buying, but he came to his senses in time and decided that it was still a large amount. Kang decided that he needed to think carefully about whether it would be useful to him. But then Kang woke up and saw that he had already placed the bag of money on the table. The blacksmith shouted that the hand was moving by itself. As Kang left, the saleswoman thanked him for the purchase and wished him luck. Kang decided that there was nothing to worry about, because you can resell this ring and stay in the black. He opened the item menu and saw that it was indeed a teleportation ring, but he was getting nervous for some reason. It turned out that this ring transports the user only 20 meters in the chosen direction 4 seconds after use, and then collapses. We see that this woman put a bag of money on the cart that is bigger than herself. She said that today's sales were excellent. She'd thought Bolden was full of simpletons who didn't know anything about it. But then we see Khan's shadow approaching the wagon. We also see Kang himself approach her, calling her a fraud. He yelled at her to give him the money back. He was furious and called her a But this woman was not afraid and asked Khan what he was talking about, calling him a He showed her the ring and told her to look at it, and asked if she knew anything. He shouted with a question about how she'd sell this unnecessary. She pretended like she didn't know anything and asked what the problem was, because the teleportation ring is just like she said. Kang protested that moving 20 meters in 4 seconds was not normal teleportation, and then called her a fraud again. She called out that she had a glamorous name, Lizzie. They started to fight and Kang shouted that it was the perfect name for such a scammer. Suddenly, a knight in gray armor approached them and asked them what was going on here. The knight informed them that they were moving out soon and told them to be ready. Kang turned to Mr. Soldier and pointed at Lizzie, saying that she was a fraud. But she suddenly grabbed the soldier's arm and made a frightened look and said that she was going to tell him what really happened. She said that she was just doing honest business. She started to tell the soldier about Kang and at that moment put a bag of money in the soldier's hand. The soldier said he was clear. The soldier pointed his spear at Kang and called him a pathetic criminal, asking how he to lie to an innocent lady. Khan asked the soldier what he was talking about, because Lizzie was the first. However, the soldier silenced Khan. The soldier ordered Khan to quickly apologize to Lizzie. He said that Kang would pull her cart as a punishment, otherwise the soldier would expel Kang from the expedition. Kang was horrified, and level 55 merchant Lizzie just scoffed at him. Then we see all the participants of the expedition who were traveling through the forest area. Lizzie was sitting on the cart that Khan was struggling to pull, and Guilford was somewhere at the head of the party. We see a man in a raincoat with an eagle in his hands hiding among the trees. He stuffed a note into the special mount on the eagle's leg and then released the eagle. The bird flew away and went to the treasury of the Broaden Kingdom. The raven landed at the window and the person who saw it said that the event they were worried about had already started. The Longboat Kingdom had sent an expedition team. After reading this note, he burned it. The person said that half of their country's income comes from intermediary trade, which is very unpleasant news. It turned out to be an old man who said that they had friendly relations with the Longboat Kingdom and that they couldn't be stopped openly. The elder asked the man in front of him if he understood what the elder meant. This person smiled bloodthirstily and said that he understood. This player's name is Kira, he is an assassin, and his rank is 89. Then we are transported. It is already dark outside. Kan lay there exhausted and thought about how it all came to this. Then this woman asked Kan what he was doing and ordered him to set up a tent. She said she needed to log out for a while, so she ordered Kan to set up a tent and prepare food. Kan didn't answer and then she yelled at him. He was angry that she decided to completely control him. He said that she had gone too far. Khan was furious and shouted that he couldn't do this anymore. Liz then screamed and started calling for the guards. Kan, hearing this, immediately calmed down and sat down on the ground looking at her. He said the ground was flat at this point and would be a great spot for a tent. Liz said she should have acted like this from the beginning. She ordered him to prepare everything while she was gone. She left the game and Kan immediately began to cry because he is only doing this to complete the quest. He shouted to the entire camp. We then see Kang sitting by the fire eating noodles. He wondered why he was doing this because he had caught the fraudster. While he was eating, someone called him. This someone said that he had heard that Khan was the best tinkerer in Bolden. Then we see a broken sword on the ground. It turned out to be people from the Red Tiger squad. This man took out an axe and told Kan to repair things. Kan realized that these people were from the Red Tigers. He asked them why so suddenly. The man with the scar said that Kan was called the King of Repairs, but Kan doesn't look confident. This man was looking forward to mocking Kan and dragging him to the commander. Kan agreed, but he was annoyed because they interrupted him while he was eating. Kan Khan said the word structure and his eye glowed blue. We then see a shocked red tiger man holding a twilight dagger that Khan had repaired 90 out of 90. Khan was lying on a hammock while the red tiger men looked at the sword in surprise. One of them said that the sword was in perfect condition, and the second that the rumors were true. And the man with the scar said that this was strange because he had heard that Khan had destroyed the commander's sword. Khan asked if they could leave if they didn't want anything else. He said he was trying to read and then called them oldies. Of course they got angry. The man with the scar began to scream in rage. He told Khan that he was acting like this after he broke the commander's weapon. In a fit of anger, he broke his sword and said that he was not an old man because they were almost the same age. Khan then asked what the old man was talking about, but the man with the scar said that he was not an old man. This man ordered to follow him until he knocked down Kana. Khan closed the book and said that he remembered. He jumped off the hammock and said about the old man he saw in the bakery. Khan asked if he was acting like this because Khan took all the cookies. The man with the scar angrily asked that Khan really thought that the red tigers could be provoked by some kind of cookie. However, all the other members of the group felt shame because this is exactly what happened. Khan said that he didn't care and just wanted to let off some steam. Khan, holding a sword, called on the man with the scar to attack. But then we see Khan tied up and like he didn't even realize how he lost. Guilford stood in front of Khan. Khan, surrounded by members of the Red Tigers, shouted that it was unfair to attack the crowd. Guilford, calling Khan a brat, said that he could forgive him if the hero apologized now. Khan got angry and said that he stood in line and then bought everything with his own money. He asked what other excuses were there for this and then told me to Guilford replied that he wasn't talking about cookies. Khan asked what was the matter then, since he did not harm anyone in this game. For some reason this made Guilford angry. He said it didn't look like it would work that way. Guilford ordered and Khan was untied. Khan thought that he was being released. However, then, when Khan raised his head a little, he saw that Guilford had already jumped on Khan to carry out an attack. Khan shouted asking what Guilford was doing. However, this did not stop Guilford and he hit very hard. Khan managed to dodge, although he received damage, but he was surprised by something else. Guilford hit an event item with an attack power of 1. Guilford said that he would have to drill some manners into Khan. Swinging, Guilford said that the lesson of discipline had begun. Guilford made a circular kick, but this blow was so powerful that it cut down trees. Khan began screaming and urged Guilford to stop taking his anger out on him. However, the attack then overtook Khan. Guilford hit him on the head and Khan fell to the ground from such a blow. Guilford said he didn't try to hit hard, but even that was enough for Khan. Although Guilford called it a lesson, the difference in levels is too big. He decided to change the conditions and said that if Khan could touch, he would be free. Khan, lying on the floor, called Guilford an old man. Khan was angry and asked Guilford if he had decided that he would never be beaten by a low-level blacksmith. Rising up, Khan said that everyone is looking down on him. Khan, meanwhile, had 10 health points out of 330. Khan immediately attacked Guilford with a scream. Their swords clashed. Guilford was able to fend off Khan's attack with a stick. They continued defense. Guilford managed to push Khan back. Guilford thought that Khan fought well for a newbie and that he had fighting talent. However, Guilford thought that such a person could not overcome the difference in levels. Khan swung at Guilford at this moment when their swords collided. Khan continued to press and eventually Guilford's stick broke. Weapon destruction is a skill that helps you find holes in weapons or ores in order to destroy them. The prerequisite for using it is to upgrade your understanding of structure to rank 7. We then see a flashback to when Khan agreed to repair the weapons of the Red Tiger men. Then Khan used structure understanding. He read in the menu that his structure understanding had risen to rank 7 and he could now learn the weapon destruction skill. Khan has finally learned this skill. We flash forward to the present and again see Khan breaking Guilford's weapon. Guilford was shocked by this. Khan knew that whether Guilford was a ranker or not, he was probably seeing this skill for the first time. Khan threw away his sword, grabbed Guilford by the shoulders, and then raised his head and shouted. However, Guilford bounced too far and Khan failed to turn his idea into reality. Khan only touched face with Guilford, which made the head of the Red Tigers not happy and Khan felt awkward. All the other members of the squad watched this, some laughed and some were shocked. Even the squirrel was shocked, as well as the birds watching from the nest. Guilford was furious and shouted that he would kill the blacksmith. Khan was also shocked. He said that this was his first kiss. The squad members held the commander and asked him to keep his promise, but he was so angry that he rushed towards Khan and shouted to let him go. A man with a scar approached the hero and said that Khan was beaten up and gave him a gift. This is a great elixir that completely restores health. The man said that he never thought that Khan would win Commander Guilford, and then asked Khan what skill it was. The man said that this was the first time he had seen weapons broken like this. However, Khan said he could not provide any details. Khan began to drink a large elixir, and at that moment the man asked the hero if he had joined the guild. The man with the scar said that he thought their commander liked Khan and then asked if he would like to join their guild. Khan responded by asking if they were ashamed because they beat him 5 minutes ago. The man laughed and said that they had not behaved very maturely, but Khan broke the commander's sword and ran away. The man suggested that they forget it. However, Khan was surprised and said that he did not remember breaking anyone's equipment, but then he suddenly remembered that moment. He screamed and said that he still broke it. Khan shook his hand and agreed that they would forget about it and called the man Big Brother. However, the man asked Khan who gave him permission to call him that. Meanwhile, Guilford continued to speak ill of Khan and become angry. As Khan left, he apologized for the incident and winked. Guilford said that that was not the point. The commander wanted to say something about the sword, but he was so overwhelmed with emotion that he simply screamed. We then flash forward to the next day and see someone eating soup and talking about how it tastes like crap. Two guys were sitting on a log. One asked the other why it was so cooked. The dark-haired guy told the fair-haired guy to turn down his sense of taste in the settings before eating, because they have nothing to restore stamina, so they should at least take advantage of this. Then Liz approached them and asked if they had spent all their consumables. She handed them a golden apple and asked if they would like something similar. The two jumped up and exclaimed that this was an expensive item. Liz said she could drop the price from 10 to 1,000 just for them. The guys were delighted and wanted to buy 4 apples at once. Then a crowd ran up to Liz, jostling each other in hopes of being the first to grab the apple. Liz was glad that she was still successful today. Then she walked back to her tent, where Khan was sitting and painting all those apples. He asked her if she really had to go that far to earn money. Liz grinned and said that Khan is too young to understand that everything in this world moves thanks to money. She said that it is not the level and skills that need to be increased, but the wallet and equipment. Liz then went to find the herbs and ordered him to deal with the rest. She promised that she wouldn't order anything else when Khan finished. Khan wondered why she was so obsessed with money. He didn't understand it at all. Khan continued to recolor the apples and, having drawn a smiley face on one of them, he said that it turned out well. Khan was happy about this and gave the apple the name Wilson, but suddenly a kunai flew at Khan. However, Khan managed to put Wilson under attack and block the kunai. Guilford shouted that they were under attack and ordered everyone to take defensive positions. The kunai hit other members of the squad. We then see a man wearing a cloak and a purple ribbon wrapped around him. The man jumped and Guilford cut him in half. Guilford was angry because this player died. Guilford thought that this was the effect of the player's death, but at the same time, the same hooded man ran at him from behind. He was about to plunge his sword into Guilford's neck. However, suddenly Kang appeared out of nowhere and used the weapon destruction skill. Khan told Guilford that he would owe and called him an old man. Guilford replied that such an attack would not have left a scratch. Guilford wondered how the man in the cloak ended up behind him without the commander even noticing. Guilford noticed that this man's camouflage skill was high. We then see a man land on a rock, Guilford asking him who he is. This man lowered his ribbon and identified himself. He said that he is the best among the assassins, the man who leads the Black Crescent. The players standing there were scared because the Black Crescent is a famous guild of assassins. This man said that he was talking about this guild. His name is Kira. He is an 89th rank assassin. Khan now has access to a new quest. Someone has hired assassins to disrupt trade between the Kingdom of Barkas and Nosark, but Khan needs to repel the attack and reach Nosark within the specified time limit. The players were scared because this was the same ranker Kira. Some did not even believe that this could happen and claimed that he was lying. They were in despair. One of them exclaimed that he did not see any weaknesses in the assassin's fighting stance. One of the people shouted that they would all die, but Kira said that he had not come to kill. His goal is to detain players and gain the title of Patriot in the shadows. Kira encouraged players to give up so he wouldn't have to get his hands dirty. Kira asked them what they thought and wanted to offer them something if they gave up, but the guy with the eye patch shouted at Kira and told him not to joke like that. He asked Kira if he had any idea how much the guy spent on this quest. The guy was furious and asked if Kira would return his money or who would reimburse his investment. Kira thought for a moment and fell silent. Then Kira bared his teeth and told the guy that it seemed he didn't understand something. Kira immediately killed the guy with an arrow. The assassin said that this was not a negotiation, but a simple formality. He told the players that they were surrounded by hundreds of his followers, and that if the players did not surrender, they would kill everyone. Kira asked if they understand the situation now. Guilford felt a presence, but not hundreds. Guilford knew that Kira was bluffing, but there were many of them in the forest. If the NPCs die, the heroes will be in trouble. Guilford then gave a signal to the magician who was standing behind. With his hand he showed that he would provoke Khan and distract attention. The commander ordered the magician to block the view from the forest with the help of magic. The magician made it clear that he understood the order. Guilford then began counting down from 3, However, before he had time to count, Kang intervened and began to mock Kira, saying that he was not the best assassin, but a petty thief. At this point, Guilford gave the stop order. Kang asked Kira what kind of assassin would reveal himself and also give lectures to the victims. Kang said that Kira should have killed everyone before they noticed him. The blacksmith told Kira that since he is a ranker, he should fight with dignity one-on-one. Kang was angry and said that Kira surrounded himself with followers and was going to win with dirty tricks, which is why he called Kira a coward. Kira said that Kang's is annoying. The assassin said that Kang was lucky because he broke the weapon and now he pretends to be tough. Kira pointed his finger at Kang, addressed the guys, and then ordered them to kill him. A kunai immediately flew at Kang. Kang easily repelled the kunai and wanted to say about the weakness of the attack, but then we see that a large number of kunai and arrows are flying at the squad. Guilford shouted to the magician that the time had come. The magician immediately erected a wall of ice made of magic and blocked everyone else's view. Kira shouted to his subordinates not to leave anyone alive and to kill everyone. However, Guilford, who was already running to attack Kira, said that only they would die. Guilford went into Berserker mode. Guilford possessed devastating energy. With this, he hit Kira, but he managed to jump back. Kira stopped, sliding along the ground. He was surprised. There was a small depression in front that was created by Guilford's impact. Kira said it was a great honor and then added that Guilford lacked a little speed. Guilford received a notification that his characteristics were too low and the Berserker mode was cancelled. The Blood of Hydra effect was obtained. Guilford's health points and stats have been reduced by 50%. We then see Kang standing in the dark and thinking about what a genius he is. A second before his death, he opened his inventory and selected log armor. It is a tree-shaped armor that protects the entire body. It is too heavy and the user cannot move. Kang thought that the Red Tigers would deal with everything themselves and said that it was time to go out. However, when he removed the armor, he was shocked. He asked them how they managed to lose. Suddenly, he started coughing up blood. A notification came that he had received the Blood of Hydra effect. His health points and stats were reduced by 50%. Kang was shocked. After all, Hydra blood is an item that drops from Hydra, the boss of the Kadria dungeon. A powerful poison that instantly reduces health and characteristics. Kang suggested that breakfast could have been poisoned with this poison. Kang said that this was strange, because the food seemed delicious to him. While the hero was thinking, an assassin was already flying at him from behind. However, Guilford parried Kira's blow, but the assassin had already swung at Guilford from behind. The assassin almost killed Guilford, but Guilford turned around and struck the assassin with his sword. Kira tried to attack while Guilford was distracted by another assassin, but Guilford managed to react and repelled Kira's attack as well. Kira was shocked. He thought that Guilford was a monster because he was at this level even after being poisoned. Kira was puzzled that his attacks weren't working. Guilford, in turn, understood that the assassins were in a more advantageous position than them. He decided that the first thing he needed to do was take out the NPCs. Guilford decided to start moving and ran away from Kira. We then flash forward to see Kang running away as well. He was running away from two assassins. Kang was tired and understood that he would soon be caught, even though he was able to dodge the attacks. The hero realized that he needed to hide and decided to run away into the forest. We then see a carriage moving and then Liz. The assassins collected items from dead players. Kira ordered the Black Crescent to prepare to move out. He said that they would immediately pursue the remaining ones when the reconnaissance group returned. The assassins understood the order of their commander. Suddenly something moved in the bushes. Kira noticed this and became interested. Liz stood behind that tree and tried not to make any sounds, but Kira thought there was some noise there. He picked up his dagger and began to approach the tree. He extended his hand in preparation to attack, but one of the assassins approached him and reported that the reconnaissance group had returned. As the assassins thought, the remaining ones head towards Rocking Bridge Canyon. Kira smiled when he heard this. He struck with his sword and cut down the trees opposite. However, Liz was no longer behind that tree. Kira shouted to the Black Crescent that they were moving towards the canyon. Kira wanted to get there with his squad first and attack when the heroes arrived. The assassins bowed to Kira. We see that Liz is still sitting behind the tree. She was scared, but she heard everything the assassins were talking about. Then we see Liz running somewhere. She thinks that if this is the same guild, then they are assassins, and also with the ranker. Liz realized that judging by the number of bodies and belongings, more than half of the expedition group had died. Liz ran with her cart. She wanted to quickly warn the expedition group, because if they fall into another ambush, the game will be over. But suddenly someone very big stood in Liz's way. Liz was shocked when she saw him. This creature had sharp claws and huge hands. We then see this one-eyed yellow creature with a club approaching Liz. She was scared to death, but the creature was only happy to see her. Liz began to run away with the cart. She was scared and could not understand where the yellow ogre had come from. Suddenly the cart wheel hit a stone. However, Liz continued moving. She flew over the handrail and landed unsuccessfully. However, the ogre continued to pursue her. She was desperate and didn't even scream anymore. Suddenly she was plunged into memories. We find out that in real life her name is Kai-Su. Some man handed her an envelope saying it was a bonus. She works in a coffee shop. This man said that she tried so hard so she can buy herself something. The first thing she thought was that she could start her studies if she added to the money she had saved. Kai-Su came to the Piano Academy building and entered it. Suddenly someone called her. She took the phone. Her sister called her and said that there was trouble with her dad. We then see Kai-Su in the hospital, her father asking for forgiveness because she spent 2.5 million won to pay for treatment at the university hospital. However, she said that everything is fine because money comes and goes and, according to her, there is nothing wrong with that. We then see her sitting at her desk with a career interest survey sheet in front of her. She couldn't get where she wanted to go and even her career expectations were shattered. We are transported back to the game and see that she took a stone in her hand and squeezed it. She said she worked so hard to earn this money. She asked the ogre if he even knew how much it took her to complete this quest. She was angry, but she cried. She shouted that she would not give up again. She started throwing stones at the yellow ogre but kept missing. She continued to cry and throw stones. She screamed at the ogre to die. She even politely asked him to die. However, suddenly Kang appeared from behind and hit the ogre. The ogre lost consciousness and began to fall with all his body weight on Liz. However, while the ogre was falling and disappearing, he did not have time to grab Liz and his hand disappeared, as did he. Exhausted, Liz sat on the floor, not understanding what had happened. Kang landed behind Liz and wondered if the ogre had died. Turning around, Kang wanted to say that it had finally worked out, but he turned around and saw a battered Liz sitting on the ground. He asked her what she was doing here. We then flash forward 30 minutes and see the two assassins who were chasing Kang, one of them wondering where Kang could have gone. One of the assassins said that there was some noise, so they ran further, past a strange felled tree. Kang was sitting in this tree. He again used this armor. Coming out, he said that he could barely tear himself away. Now he needs to find a normal antidote. But suddenly an ogre appeared behind him. Kang turned around and saw a yellow ogre standing right behind him. The yellow ogre is a rare mob that spawns near the Nemesis Mountains. He has high attack for his level, so battles with him are usually avoided. The ogre, about to hit Kang, hit the ground and the attack was really strong. However, Kang knew that the ogre would drop a large antidote. Kang understood that he could cope with the giant because he was an experienced fighter. Kang read all this information on the forum on a thread about the Nemesis Mountains. Kang thought that no matter how great the attack power, it is useless if the ogre cannot hit. Kang hit the ogre and dealt him 50 damage. Kang continued to attack the giant from the air, damaging him. We then see the yellow ogre running away from Kang in fear as he continues to chase him. We are transported back to the present and see Kang drinking a large antidote that combines the effects of other antidotes and cures any abnormal conditions. Liz said Kang was a liar. She couldn't believe Kang killed that yellow ogre. He said that it was so and asked her if she could see it, pointing to the inscription, Ogre Conqueror. Ogre Conqueror is the title of one who strikes fear into the hearts of ogres. Kang said that although he has little attack power, it is enough to beat the ogre until he dies. Liz was surprised and wondered if Kang really killed an ogre with the profession of a blacksmith. Liz decided that it didn't matter because it would be difficult for her herself, but now there are chances. While Kang rejoiced that he was now healed, Liz invited him to work together. She asked him that he also wanted to complete this quest. Liz said she has a plan to get rid of the Black Crescent. Then we are transported to another location and see an expedition group that is about to cross the suspension bridge. One of the group members said that there was a bridge ahead, which meant they were almost there. However, Guilford replied that this was not the case because this was not the end. Guilford walked forward with a sword in his hands and struck, as it might seem at first glance, into the air. However, this blow was dodged by Kira, who appeared there out of nowhere. Kira said he was impressed. He was sure that he had hidden his presence well. Kira asked Guilford how he guessed. Guilford told Kira to consider it an adult's experience and called the assassin a petty thing. Kira grinned and snapped his fingers. He said Guilford talks so much but will eventually be destroyed by this little thing. Then a large number of assassins appeared above and at the same moment a large number of arrows flew at the expedition group. Guilford began to defend himself against the arrows and cut them in the air. He managed to repel the arrows, but some part of the group still did not escape. Guilford shouted to the magician and gave the signal. The magician wanted to build an ice wall again, but before he could finish speaking, he was immediately killed by an assassin. Guilford was concerned about this and became distracted by the death of his magician. Meanwhile, Kira was ready to attack. He came out of nowhere and stabbed Guilford right in the chest with his dagger. Kira was happy that he succeeded. The assassin said that it seemed that Guilford's reputation for storm had been exaggerated. The last blow remained. Guilford lay on the ground unconscious. We then see the cart. Kira saw it and was confused. The cart was heading straight for Kira, pushed by Kan, who waved at Kira and called him a petty thief. Kira recognized this guy. Kan pushed the cart with the words "catch the gift." However, Kira took out a dagger and cut down the cart and barrels, the contents of which were something liquid. Kira said that he heard that Kan was lucky to escape, and now he himself returned to them. Kira said that Kan seemed to really want to die, but he didn't finish his sentence. Kira was covered in some kind of liquid and asked Kan what that smell was. Kan threw what he called a bonus at Kira, namely a Molotov cocktail. This bottle flew and landed right on Kira's leg. Kan shouted, thereby giving someone a signal. Explosions were heard on the battlefield. Kira, who was at the epicenter of one of the explosions, began to shout at the blacksmith. We then see Liz, who apparently came up with this plan. We are transported not far into the past and see Liz talking about barrels. She called these barrels explosive spirit. She took the barrels to sell because the dwarves love this stuff. Just by the smell you can tell how strong the alcohol is. She turned on the tap and let one drop fall to the ground. She decided to demonstrate this to Kan and lit a match in her hand. She dropped the match on the drop and there was a small explosion. She said that even a couple of drops explode on contact with fire. She said that if they could pour it all on Kira and then set it on fire, there would be an explosion. She said that even a ranker would die from this, and Kira is an assassin. Liz wanted to say that it wasn't such a bad plan, but Kan interrupted her and said that he didn't even know. Kan said that even if they somehow got rid of Kira, they don't know what to do with the rest of the assassins. Liz replied that they could be blown up along with Kira. However, Kan said that there was no chance that this Kira turkey would stand near the group. Kan is sure that Kira will get out to the most visible place while the others hide. Liz wanted to talk about what would happen if they got rid of Kira. However, Kan interrupted her and said that this is not a problem that can be solved by killing the leader because there are too many of them. Liz asked Kan what he was proposing then and if he had any better ideas. Kan asked her to think about something. He said that the assassins needed somewhere to hide before attacking. So the plan is simple. Kan suggested blowing up all possible shelters. We are transported back and see that they did just that, blowing up the assassin's hideout. Liz ran from the explosions. She did everything as Kan said. Before the attack, Kan told her that he would show her the places that, if blown up, would cause the canyon to collapse. And he warned her that when he gave the signal, she would blow up all the barrels. Liz couldn't believe that Kan came up with the idea to destroy the canyon, and Kan also killed the ogre. She wondered who Kan even was. We then see Kan, who watched in amazement as the canyon collapsed. His eyes glowed blue, which meant he was using structure. Kan said he had his doubts, but it worked out. The more he learns about the structure skill, he says, the more fun it becomes. Kan said that more research needs to be done when he finishes the quest. But suddenly we see a silhouette on fire. Kan was going about his business, but this man came out of the fire. He was all burning. He asked Kan where he was going. Kan was surprised and turned around. It was Kira and he was very angry with Kan. Kira used his skill, but Kan managed to dodge. Kan was surprised that Kira was able to survive such an explosion. Kan was indignant that Kira is a typical ranker, because among them there are only monsters. Kira continued to burn with fire and told Kan that he would regret making him angry. Kira received many burns. He was very angry and even took out his second blade. Meanwhile, the expedition group began to cross the bridge, first letting NPCs and newcomers through. Guilford was slightly injured and said that although he did not know what caused the explosion, he survived because of it. The group needs to leave quickly before the Black Crescent catches up with them. Suddenly Liz ran up to Guilford screaming. She said that they had gained some time and needed to get to the other side quickly. Guilford asked her if she meant to say that she caused the explosion. Liz said that it was true. She and the blacksmith Zigg caused the explosion. Guilford was surprised that Zigg did this. The man with the scar told the commander that the others had already crossed the bridge and that Guilford needed to do it too. However, Guilford was determined and said that he would wait for the blacksmith on this side. Members of the squad tried to convince Guilford, saying that Kan would come sooner or later. However, Guilford did not listen to them and said that the blacksmith saved him twice. Guilford does not want to remain in debt and cannot leave without Kan. We are transported back to the battlefield and see fire raging around Kan and Kira. Kan, while fighting Kira, used weapon destruction and destroyed one of his blades. The blade of the blade fell right in front of Kira. Assassin said that this is the same skill that Kan used before. He asked if Kan really thought he could be defeated by such petty tricks. However, Kan began to argue and said that this was being said by a person who, due to fire damage, could not straighten his back. Kan wanted to say that all Kira does is bark, but suddenly purple lines appeared around Kan's arm. And then his whole body became covered with lines. Kan was shocked and couldn't understand where this sudden damage came from. Kan fell to the ground. Kira, standing over the blacksmith, said that this skill is called residual trace attack. Kira said that if Kan was going to continue to dodge and use these pathetic attacks until the end, then he is know his place. Kan was lying right at Kira's feet. The assassin said that he would kill Khan like an ordinary bug and was going to step on Khan's head with his foot. However, Khan shouted and gave the signal again. Kira became distracted and nervous. He thought that they had not detonated all the bombs. Kira looked around and completely forgot about Khan. Then the assassin noticed the loss. Khan ran away from Kira. Khan was delighted that Kira fell for such a simple scam. Kira then approached the Triumph Cave of Mount Nemesis. Kira entered the cave and said that he almost caught Khan. The assassin said that he would like to beat Khan in real life. But suddenly something flew into Kira from behind. The assassin reacted and cut the object. He got angry when he realized it was a bag of cookies. Then Khan attacked Kira with a scream. He hit the assassin with his sword. Kira was shocked. Khan was glad that he got it this time. However, his joy did not last long. It turned out that it was just an illusion, and the real Kira was standing behind Khan. This is the assassin's hidden skill, Shadow Decoy. Summons a clone that moves like the main body, disappears after receiving damage. Kira kicked the hero on the back. The blow was quite strong, so much so that it threw Khan forward. Kira said that he had to admit that Khan was hard to deal with, maybe even harder than Guilford. But this is the end, said Kira. The assassin wanted to say that the games were over, but the vines entangled Kira's legs. Kira couldn't understand what was happening and asked what was happening this time. Khan, sitting by the stones, said that in this cave, as Kira can see, there are no objects or monsters, but there is one interesting plant here. Khan said that Kira doesn't have to kick, because she won't be able to escape. This plant is a level 33 cave vine. She grabs any objects nearby and disappears herself when the capture time ends. Kira tried to break free. Khan stood up and said that he had to watch where he was going, but at the same time he thought that the stakes were high, but it worked. Kira was once again furious that Khan was using tricks until the very end. He asked what Khan would do now without any fighting skills or weapons. Khan said that he didn't need them and took an item from his inventory. Khan picked up the pickaxe and said that with this he killed a giant stone golem. However, Kira laughed at Khan and asked if Khan's secret weapon was an ordinary pickaxe. Khan attacked Kira with a pickaxe, saying that now they would find out whether she was ordinary or not. Kira closed his eyes and prepared for the blow. However, Khan hit the wall that stood behind Kira. The assassin continued to mock Khan and asked if he really couldn't hit even a standing target. However, Khan said he got it. He pointed to something that was glowing strongly and said that he had gone straight there, into the core of the walls of this cave. Khan destroyed him. Khan said that the cave would soon collapse, but Kira, as always, did not believe the hero and wanted to say that this could not cause a collapse, but before he could finish speaking, everything around began to tremble. Kira had never heard of such a skill, so he thought it was definitely a bluff. He suggested that perhaps this was some kind of effect on the mind, but he put this thought out of his head because Khan was just a blacksmith and there was no point in it. Kira realized that it turned out that the cave was really being destroyed. The assassin thought that Khan was going to take him down with him. Kira tried to run away, but the cave vine held him. He fell to the ground and was notified that he was trapped and could not move for 10 seconds. He went crazy and started screaming that he was a ranker. He did not want to admit that he could be defeated, as he said, by some blacksmith. And then the cave began to collapse and Kira screamed even louder. The attack on the expedition group failed as all the assassins hired to attack the merchants were killed. Members of the Black Crescent Guild will be punished for failing the quest. We are transported again to the bridge. One of the squad members told Commander Guilford that they had to go. Another said it would be easier to admit Zigg was dead. However, Guilford said Zigg didn't seem like someone who would die just like that. The man with the scar agreed with Guilford and said he had hoped the boy would come. Suddenly someone shouted at them to watch their words better. It turned out to be Khan. He was tired, but could still walk on his own. Khan said that if anything he was still alive. The man with the scar exclaimed in surprise that Khan had returned unharmed. However, Khan indignantly asked where he looked intact. Khan, showing the ring on his index finger, said that without this item he would definitely die. It was the same ring that Liz had sold him. When he was in the cave he realized that he only had one chance. He would not have had time to reach the exit from the cave, but he used this ring. Using the ring, he hoped that it would teleport him to the exit. And so he began to teleport. He managed to do this right before the moment when the stones collapsed. Thus, he was able to leave the cave and survive. After he succeeded, he was glad that he survived. Khan, holding the ring in his hands, said that it was still a robbery and the ring was not worth the money, but he thanked the scammer. Liz thought that Khan only had a defective, useless item, but he still found a use for it and survived, even against the ranker. She thought that such guys were rare to meet, so she decided that she needed to find an opportunity to make him her servant. Liz then said that as she said, Khan would be grateful to, as she said, Lizzie's big sister. Khan replied that she didn't even say her age. Guilford chuckled and said that what was surprising was that Khan defeated Karuya. Khan replied that he defeated Kira, unlike one shaggy old man who only knows how to talk. Guilford became angry and started shouting that he had his own problems. The squad members just laughed at what was happening. Everyone who stood there was glad that they survived and had fun. Kang interrupted the fun and said that we need to move on to Nosark. We then see the expedition team arrive at a majestic structure with many towers made of stone. It was snowing outside. They shouted that a group of merchants from the kingdom of Barkas had arrived and asked to open the door. Thus the quest to create a trade route was completed. Of the 80 adventurers, 28 survived. These people will receive gifts from the king himself. And so, the gate, equipped with many mechanisms, opened. The heroes received 3,000 experience and 700 prestige. Zigg has reached level 55. He became able to create and repair C-rank equipment. The king's gift to Kang was Vidic's shield. Vidic's shield is a great equipment only for the blacksmith, a royal treasure gifted by King Longbow. Special skill, can block any attack once per day. We then flash forward to see someone discussing Kang's character, Zigg. The man says that a month has passed since his creation and choice of the profession of a blacksmith. The man, pointing to Kang, said that this user used to be a ranker, the character Bartz. Once created, Zigg showed signs of being an unconventional player, defeated a rampaging stone golem that triggers a hidden event, and moved to Nosark, where the next trigger for this event is located. The development team thinks that this user has a high chance of triggering the Mycenia event. Then one of the people sitting at the table said that even if we assume that a level 55 blacksmith can somehow activate the event, then why should the update be delayed? The speaker said that this event could bring big changes to the entire Arpedia. If it overlaps with the release of the update, then users may be confused. However, the man who asked the question only sighed heavily. This man turned to the head of the department, Kim, and said that his words made no sense. He said that it took almost 3 years for the rampaging stone golem to appear, and Kim says that they need to delay the update because of the low-level blacksmith. He asked Kim if he was ready to take responsibility for the negative consequences of moving the date. Kim got nervous and said that if you look at it in the long term, but suddenly someone interrupted him and said that he would take responsibility himself. It turned out to be director Sun Seok-jin. He apologized for being late and said that he had been so busy preparing for the meeting that he had forgotten about it. The man asked the director to sit down and asked what he meant by these words. Chin replied that, as he said, he would take responsibility for the update to be postponed. The man asked why did Chin also believe that the blacksmith would trigger the event. Director Chin said that this is just one small detail. There are actually a few things Chin would like to add to this update. Chin asked for a little time to implement them. Chin then showed something on his laptop. He wanted to expand the continent, manufacturing professions, stories of Deborah the Witch, and add 300 new skills. Chin said the schedule will have to be rescheduled slightly to finalize the changes. Chin said if they don't get the expected growth rates, he will be held accountable. The man who was talking about the blacksmith approached Director Chin and said that even if you forget that this is not related to the original topic, such an update will take them 2 years. However, Chin replied that he did most of the work on vacation, and the development team had one last push. The man was shocked. Chin asked if they weren't interested in how Arpedia would change later. We then cut to Kang and see him talking in his sleep. He dreamed of a meeting with a hacker who hacked his account. Kang's younger brother was also in the room. He entered the room and saw Kang talking in his sleep and talking some nonsense, saying that he had been waiting for this day for so long. Then the younger brother simply left the room. The younger brother returned and was asked where Kang was. YuHan said that Kang seemed to be playing all night again and was still sleeping. When their mother heard this, she became angry. She started screaming about how Kang said he would study but was still playing. However, Kang's father asked what was wrong with that. He said he thought it would be better if Kang did what he liked, especially compared to the past. The mother told her husband that it was because of his behavior that Kang grew up this way and would not be able to earn a living. However, the father asked if this was a problem, since Kang would be able to manage their store. The father said he hoped Kang would find happiness. He said that they couldn't help when Kang was having a hard time, so he should be allowed to do what he wants. But the father is worried about Kang's health. YuHan said that these were inspiring words and suggested that this wisdom be reinforced. He suggested that he skip classes today. However, the mother got angry and said no way. We then see Kang sitting on a park bench. He was holding an iron can in his hands and drinking something. At the same time, he thought about his father's words about how they couldn't help Kang when he was going through hard times. Kang thought that his parents had too many unnecessary experiences and he had not been bothered by that incident for a long time. Then we are transported to memories. We see Kang carrying a tray of food in the school cafeteria. He was 18 years old at the time and in his second year at Haklam High School. He saw a rat in the cafeteria food. He told his friends that he asked for more meat, but he called it too much. He took out his phone and decided that he needed to write about it. He took a photo of a rat in the soup and published a post in his diary saying that he was a student of Senior Haklam. Today they served soup for lunch, in which he noticed something strange, as it turned out to be a rat. The action takes place still at school. One of the students opened the door. Judging by his behavior, he was angry. He entered the class and called Kan and asked if he was in this class. The students started whispering about this student. His name is Kim Pil-chun. He transferred from Yangwon High School. According to his students, everyone there called him crazy. Kim then approached Kang, who was sleeping at his desk. He pointed at Kang and asked his classmate if it was Kang. The classmate nodded his head and then Kim unceremoniously grabbed Kang by the head. For some reason, Kim was very angry with Kan and woke him up harshly, and then he hit the half-asleep Kan right in the face. The blow was so strong that Kan's nose began to bleed, and Kan fell to the floor. Kim said Kang was finished. Then we see Kang come home. His mother was shocked when she saw him. She asked Kan what was wrong with his face and whether she had gotten into a fight, but the boy replied that he just fell down the stairs. The mother asked if it hurt a lot and if it was worth taking Kan to the hospital, but he replied that there was nothing to worry about because he was fine. However, he was definitely not okay. From that day on, his school life turned into a living hell. Kim was constantly looking for Kang to attack. Friends began to move away more and more, and as a result, Kan found himself isolated. Every day Kan was beaten. They mocked him, they beat him, and they mocked me again. Lying on the floor, the beaten Kan quietly asked why they were doing this to him. However, the boy asked what he was mumbling about and said that they didn't hear anything. Kan got angry and shouted out the question why they were doing this to him. Fell silent. And then they started laughing at the fact that Kan imagined himself to be a tragic character. They began to imitate him and distort his words. Then someone came into the room and told them that they shouldn't behave like that. This someone said that if a friend asks a question, then you need to answer it. It turned out to be 18-year-old Young Hyun-il, the student council president of Haklim High. Kan recognized him and thought that this is the guy who always takes first place. Chan walked up to Kang and sat down. He asked Kan if he wondered why he was always being beaten. Chan said that he would explain and asked to listen carefully. He then grabbed Kan's head tightly and said that it was all just like that. He asked Kan if there was a reason to hit someone like Kan. Young said that he doesn't like Kang. Everyone started laughing at Kan even more. The hero, remembering this, got angry and squeezed the tin can tightly. Kang said it was better for Youngwoo to stay out of sight. Kang talked about turning Chan into a cutlet with the feeling of fighting that he received in the game. But suddenly Kan's face was covered with some kind of napkin, which was blown away by air. He almost fell because he couldn't see anything, and in this state he came across a man. The man then said Kan pushed him and asked if he wanted to apologize. Kan wanted to apologize, but he didn't finish because he was shocked by what he saw. It turned out that this man was Kim, who Kang at school. Kim said he already has his hands full. Kim kicked Kang in the leg and asked if he was going to apologize. However, Kang could not say anything. He was numb with fear. Then Kim picked up Kang and asked if he had heard what Kim said. However, Kang was only thinking about where Kim came from here. Suddenly, Kim's phone rang. Kim took out his phone, saying that Kang was lucky. After leaving, Kim told Kang to watch where he was going next time. Kan was horrified. Then we are transported to some club and see a dialogue. One of the men asked the other if he would increase the tax. The second responded positively and said that they would raise this issue at the next meeting. One of the interlocutors was Kim. The man asked Kim if he knew that a trade route from Barkas to Nosark had recently been opened. The man said that because of this, Lord Broden's treasury is in a deplorable state. He also said that the tribute from Nambarina was always too small. Kim objected because this man was going to immediately double taxes. However, the man calmly called out Kim's name and then asked for an answer. It was clear that Kim was unhappy with this, but he replied that he understood. We then see Kang arrive at the Great Korean Dojo building. Kan thought he had been fine for a long time, and that now he is not afraid of other people or leaving the house. But he remembered how scared he was when he met Kim, and that made him angry with himself. Kang decided that he would become a strong version of Kang YuHan. He decided to raise the level of his body and decided that then his mental state would become stronger. He walked through the door and hesitantly shouted that he had come to study martial arts. However, he did not finish because he saw how training was going on in full force in the hall and people were being beaten. One of the trainees even asked to be saved and cried. Kan was shocked and very nervous. Then Kan, as he was about to leave, said that he was unemployed and had no extra money for training. We see a man with a scar who asked Kan if he had come to enroll in their dojo. However, Kan replied that this was not so and that he was simply mistaken and that he had come in by accident. But suddenly, on his way out, he hit the one who entered this dojo. It turned out to be Guilford. He looked at Kan carefully. Guilford was shocked and pointed his finger at Kan. He shouted that it was a blacksmith. After some time, we see Kan sitting on the couch and thinking about how this is possible. He wondered how such a section turned out to be the base of the Red Tigers. The man with the scar said that he now understood why Khan's gate seemed familiar. The man with the scar said that judging by his clothes, Kang also practices martial arts. However, Khan began to deny this and said that he just wanted to do some sports. The man asked if that was why he came to sign up for their section. However, Khan denied this too and said that he was unemployed and did not have money to pay for training. However, Guilford told Khan not to worry. He said that he had a special offer for Khan, exemption from paying the membership fee. The man with the scar encouraged Khan to join and said that accidents are not accidental. Khan wondered why there was so much pressure on him. However, we then see a pleased Guilford, who thinks about beating the crap out of Khan and teaching him some manners. Khan thought about giving it a try since he had nothing to lose, and then Khan agreed and said that he hoped they would get along. The man with the scar asked what Kang's name was in real life and was already preparing to write it down in the journal. Kang replied that his name was Kang YuHan. Guilford then said that he had heard this name somewhere before. Suddenly Guilford remembered. He remembered that the son of the owner of the store Guilford visited before was named Kang YuHan. Guilford said Khan was friends with his daughter. Then Guilford wondered what was happening to him again. He was bringing up the past again. Khan asked in a trembling voice if it was possible to find out what Guilford's name was in real life. Guilford asked if he had introduced himself. He said his name was Song Ti-Su. Khan became even more nervous and, with an even more trembling voice, asked permission to know his daughter's name. Su said his daughter's name. Her name is Ki-Rin. Su asked why Khan needed to know his daughter's name. Kang said that he had not seen Su for a long time. Su at first did not understand why Kang said this, but then realization came to him. He asked Kang if he was the same YuHan. We then see a notification about low stamina and a duration of 30 minutes. Then the way Zigg lies on the floor. He received a notification that his HP was approaching 0. Khan thought that this was absolute hell. After this, we are transported back to the dojo and see how Su twists Khan by the legs and says that we can consider that fate has brought them together again. Su said that he would personally train Kang. After finishing this training, Khan somehow dragged his exhausted body home. And of course Khan went to Arpedia Online. Khan thought that he would receive a quest from the dwarves and after completing it, he would level up and maybe master a hidden skill. But it was not there. Khan was kicked out of there and he lay on the floor crying and said that gnomes are a very closed race. Then we see how the dwarf asked Khan and how a person can be useful. And another asked if Khan thought they didn't know that Khan actually wanted to steal their trade secret. Khan thought that he could not have imagined that the gnomes would turn out to be so wild. If Khan had asked even harder, then, as Khan thought, they would have chased him with knives. The hero received a notification that he does not have enough stamina. He decided that he needed to eat something. While looking for food, he came across a store, but he was shocked that raw potatoes cost 1,200 gold. He was also confused by the fact that they were kept behind glass, since they were just ordinary potatoes. The dwarf said that of the two of them, he was joking, it was more likely Khan. The gnome added that, by the way, their store is considered the cheapest in the entire village. Although direct trading began only recently, prices have still not normalized. Khan asked the gnome to give one, but he saw that he did not have enough money in his account. He came to the realization that he had spent all his money ordering iron in the gold rush, because then he thought that he would soon be able to get a job in a forge. Khan apologized and asked the gnome if he could make a discount and throw off 400 gold. Khan asked the gnome politely. However, the dwarf also kicked Khan out. And now we are transported to the present time, at the moment when Khan lies exhausted on the floor. While he lay there, he thought that he had not eaten anything for a long time. He already wanted to just die, because after revival his stamina would be at its maximum. However, he rejected this thought, because he decided that he simply could not die. It took him a lot of energy and nerves to raise the level. Khan decided that he had no choice and would have to sell the item he had just taken from his inventory in order to save his life. This item was Vidic's shield, whose special skill is to block any attack once a day. Khan really liked the special skill and it was a shame to sell Vidic's shield. But since it was a rank shield, Khan wouldn't be able to use it for a while. Moreover, in this village, Khan is unlikely to be able to earn money from repairing weapons. Then a dwarf approached Khan. This dwarf said that he really liked the shield and asked if Khan could sell it. Khan turned on the merchant mode and began to talk about what he doesn't even know because the shield is so dear to him. At the same time, Khan was glad that he immediately had a buyer. The dwarf said that so be it, he would give 5 large gold pieces for the shield. Khan thought that 5 large gold coins was 5 million gold coins. Khan immediately handed the shield to the dwarf. The dwarf said that the shield was costing him a lot. The dwarf gave Khan some gold coins. When Khan saw this, he was horrified because the dwarf gave only 500 gold pieces. The dwarf then said goodbye to Khan and left in his car. Khan got angry and shouted very loudly to the dwarf to return the shield. After some time, we see Khan knocking on the door and shouting for the gnome to come out. Khan was furious and called for the gnome to get out. The hero said that if the gnome doesn't come out, he will spend his whole life under the gnome's door. We are transported inside the gnome's house. For some reason, the dwarf broke the shield into pieces. This was necessary in order to get all the stones. He looked at these pebbles and found it interesting. He wondered if this stone was connected to another. We see that there is a large mechanical creature in this house. After this, we move back to Khan. He ate potatoes not far from the gnome's house. Khan was furious. He was ready to become a dwarf killer. Khan heard conversations nearby. He saw young gnomes. They stood with some buckets and were preparing for something. All the dwarves said they were ready, and then they got down to business. The dwarves were delighted because it turned out to be more fun than they thought. They continued to laugh loudly. It turned out that these youngsters were simply painting the wall. Khan, when he realized this, was a little ashamed of them. He realized that they were drawing, as he thought it was childish and obvious. Khan thought that this was something not right. The children continued to draw and had a lot of fun. However, Khan, approaching them, called out to them. They got scared and began to make excuses by saying that this was not what Khan could have thought. However, Khan smiled and said that he didn't think anything. He snatched the brush from the girl and said that what they were doing could hardly be called drawings. He said that if you draw, you need to do it properly. Khan began to draw himself. We are transported again to the gnome. The dwarf took out a bag and said that, as he thought, the magic waves did not match. He only said that he was sorry for the money spent. However, he added that there was nothing to be done and wondered whether to go to the ice palace. The dwarf rejected this thought because there he would probably have to fight with someone, and he didn't like that. He said it would be nice if someone went there instead of him. The dwarf left his house. Khan screamed when he saw the gnome and asked if he had really gotten out. The hero began to shout at the dwarf to return his shield. Khan said that in order to get this shield, he had to go so much, and the dwarf tricked him and gave him 500 gold pieces for it. Khan told the gnome that big gold is an amount of 1 million and above. Khan asked the dwarf if he was listening at all. However, the dwarf looked at the drawings and then asked Khan whether he painted his house. But Khan became even more angry and said that this was just child's play compared to what the dwarf did. However, the dwarf began to think that Khan's scribblings were similar to the drawings of a 5-year-old child. He looked at one of the drawings and realized that Khan clearly wanted to depict a broken arm. For some reason, this seemed very cool to the dwarf. The dwarf analyzed and realized that judging by Khan's clothes, he was a human blacksmith. The dwarf decided to entrust this to Khan. Khan continued to shout at the gnome, and the children left in a fuss. The dwarf finally began to speak and said that he would return Khan's shield and then asked to be released. And so Khan let him go. The dwarf poured out the contents of the bag and said that it was a shield. Khan wanted to be happy, but he looked at the shield and asked what it was. The dwarf said that this was Vidic's shield, which he bought from Khan, only already disassembled. The dwarf said that he very carefully disassembled the shield, and Khan needed to reassemble it and it would be exactly like the previous one. He said that since Khan is a blacksmith, for him it's like 2 fingers on. Khan asked the dwarf if he had dismantled his shield. Khan took the dwarf by the shoulders. It seemed that Khan was furious. However, he was delighted and asked the gnome to tell him how he managed to dismantle the shield. The standard skills that blacksmiths have are creating and repairing weapons. And in order to make a weapon from expensive materials, you need to follow the instructions. However, if you make a mistake in manufacturing, you can suffer losses. Khan wondered what if this unfortunate weapon could be dismantled. Then it will be possible to recycle used materials and create new weapons that no one knows about. This way you can even create items with unusual characteristics. It turns out that you can change existing items as you want. Khan decided that he urgently needed to learn this skill, and the shield was not the most important thing right now. Khan began shaking the dwarf by the shoulders, asking him to teach him. The dwarf said that so be it, and then asked Khan if he was ready to become his student. Khan began talking about how he knew the philosophy of the dwarves that they should preserve their mastery from other races. However, he was surprised when he realized that the dwarf was ready to accept him as an apprentice. They went into the gnome's house and Khan held his nose, saying that there was a smell of mold there. The dwarf opened the basement and motioned for Khan to follow him. While they were descending, the dwarf asked if Khan knew anything about Anguras. Khan replied that of course he knew. This is a legendary monster that lives in the northeast of Nosarka. He loves jewelry, so the dwarves placate him with precious stones and handicrafts. At the same time, Khan was thinking that apart from the fact that he looks like an ordinary thief, in reality he is an ordinary pliable dragon. Khan was jealous that this dragon had so many jewels from the dwarves. The dwarf said that there are ignorant people from the east who offer handicrafts and precious stones to this lizard. But according to the gnome, he is not like them. The dwarf is going to kill this lizard, develop the gold mines in the north and get rich. Khan played along with the dwarf and said that it was cool, but he did not want the dwarf to send him to kill Anguras. The dwarf said that to fulfill this grandiose plan he created it. Khan asked who it was. They entered the room in which the gnome's creation was located. The dwarf called it the masterpiece of his life, Max Dragon. Kang was surprised and asked if it was moving. However, the dwarf considered this question unreasonable. He replied that of course the dragon does not move. After all, if he had moved, the dwarf would not have left him here. Kang said he didn't understand anything. The hero asked if it turns out that this is just a huge tin can. However, the dwarf advised not to jump to a hasty conclusion. According to the gnome, all the details in it are correctly selected and perform their functions perfectly. All the gnome needs to do is find a suitable source of energy. Kang, holding an object in his hand, thought out loud that he could try to make a weapon out of it. The dwarf kicked him and urged him to concentrate, because according to him, the most important thing begins from this moment. Kang asked the dwarf to continue and he said that he would get straight to the point. The dwarf said that Kang should go to the Ice Palace. Then we are transported to the Ice Palace. There was some guy fighting monsters with all his might. He defeated tree soldiers and skeleton swordsmen. However, we then see how she killed that skeleton swordsman with a powerful blow. She asked her partner if he was okay, and he replied that he was okay thanks to her. The guy said that it looks like the rumors about this being Deborah's hidden dungeon are true. Ja agreed with him and said that even the monsters here are very familiar. Suddenly a bolt of light struck them and he asked Irene what she was doing. Irene replied that she did it by accident. The guy started arguing with her and said that she did this on purpose, but she changed the topic and asked how this dungeon appeared if there was no update yet. The guy thought about it and then said that there are many different opinions on this matter on the forum. According to him, there were many theories, but it seems like someone 2 weeks ago explained how it eventually appeared. She remembered that about 2 weeks ago she had cleared out Deborah's dungeon. Suddenly she remembered something, namely about what Kana added to the messenger and promised to write. She felt embarrassed by this. She completely forgot to write to Kang. She was so busy leveling up. She decided that she would definitely write about how this dungeon went. However, she saw one of the group members in front of her who was covered in blood and was scared. She asked Loki what happened to him, and the other guy said that he would cure him now. Loki had an arrow sticking out of his head, but that didn't stop him from showing something to his teammates. He pointed to the silhouette of a man standing in the fog. The squad members thought it was a monster and prepared to attack. Jill loaded her bow. However, we see that it is Kang. He said he couldn't see anything because of the thick fog. Seeing this, Jill was surprised. She realized that it was Kang. He came out of the fog with a question about why the fog was so thick. Zigg said Jill's name and she said his name. She asked him how he ended up here. We then flash back some time and see the dwarf explaining to Kang that the Ice Palace is a dungeon that appeared about 2 weeks ago at the end of the northern Ice Valley. Then the dwarf put a sheet of paper on the table and said that this is a list of the monsters that live in this palace. Seeing this, Kang was surprised. He said they were Deborah's tree soldiers. The dwarf replied that this is true, but if you look closely, they are slightly different in appearance. The dwarf thinks this might be Deborah's secret design. And this creature can start that, as Kang said, a tin can. Kang asked skeptically if the gnome was really talking about the tree soldier. However, the dwarf was serious and told Kang that if he didn't know, then Deborah was a genius in magical engineering. Despite its small size, the heart that this woman created for the new tree soldier has strong energy. The heart of an ordinary tree soldier will not be enough, but according to the gnome, if he could study the heart of a new creature, he could create a source of energy and revive this dragon. The dwarf said that this was a test for Zigg. If Kang wants to become his student, he must bring 30 hearts of the new type of tree soldiers. We are transported to present day. Ja asks Kang if it turns out that he came here to complete a quest. Kang responded positively and said that he had fallen on hard times, so he had to. Kang was angry at the dwarf for speaking as if he would simply take him on as an apprentice. However, Kang discarded these thoughts because he was still interested in exploring the new dungeon himself. Ja asked Kang if he would like to join their guild. A guy with a monocle over his eye encouraged us to join them, explaining that it was not by chance that they met here. He said that they would help Kang complete the quest, and she would help them clear the area. Kang was pressured by the number of group members, and his goal is not a cleanup. While Kang stood and thought, Irene asked Sia about how the blacksmith could be useful to them. She looked at Irene with a terrifying look and asked what she had against Zigg, and Irene, in turn, immediately agreed. Kang said that everything was fine and he could handle it himself. But Ja approached him and grabbed his hand and asked why he was standing. She pulled him along and urged him to go faster. Some time later we see Eren and Loki fighting. She cast a light shield on Loki's shield, followed by a taunt. Loki applied protection and they got a huge shield. Ja started making serial shots, and the guy with the monocle started making stone attacks. Thus, the heroes defeated their opponents. We then see a mechanical heart fall off one of the tree soldiers. Kang picked it up and received a notification that he had obtained the heart of a new type of wooden soldier. The hero was glad, because this was the last heart required. He completed the quest Galley's test by collecting the hearts of the new type of wooden soldiers. Kang thought about the fact that they get along well with all the members of the guild. But if they continue in the same spirit, will they be able to clear everything in no time? The only thing that worries Khan is the unknown nature of this dungeon. Irene asked Ken if he could do anything, otherwise, according to her, he, being an egoist, only collects objects. However, Ja said that Irene is wrong because Zigg is saving his energy now. Ja said that if Zigg showed his skills, Irene would definitely be shocked. She then looked at Zigg with delight and asked if that was true. Khan felt awkward, but he agreed with the archer. He realized that he needed to do something now. The guy with the monocle clapped and told them to stop talking. He pointed to the gate and said that this was a room. He instructed them to use the necessary items, take weapons and go. Irene happily ran to the boss's room, shouting that she was the first. Ja started shouting at her that it was dangerous to go alone. Irene suddenly stood up. A woman stood in front of her. Irene said worriedly that there was a woman crying here. This woman's hands were blue and her hair was gray, and she herself was wearing a hood. Irene reached out to the woman. She asked her if everything was okay. The guy with the monocle ran towards her and started shouting that she shouldn't touch her. But he didn't have time to warn her. The woman stopped crying and grabbed Irene's brush. The woman said that Irene was caught. Then suddenly her face changed. Her face became like the face of a snake, and instead of hair there were now snakes too. The woman used the stone cloud technique. She was unhappy that the heroes dodged. She said that all people know how to do is run fast. She then asked what about Loki. The woman asked if he could escape because he was slow. She called him. She returned to human form and asked him to tell her about where his friends went, who left him here alone. She promised to spare his life if she told him. However, behind this sweet face of a woman was hidden the frightening face of a snake. Suddenly Loki used provocation and then defense. The snake showed its true face again. She said that if Loki wanted to die so badly, then she would do as he wanted and attacked him with her snakes. We are transported to see Irene, who is terrified and still has not recovered from the shock. She asked what it was, and the guy with the monocle replied that it was a jellyfish, the toughest and most unpleasant monster in Arpedia. He said that there was talk on the forum that the main boss of the Ice Palace was a jellyfish. But this is not reliable information, but the guy said that it was still worth telling his comrades, and then apologized. Irene said that the guy was not to blame and should not apologize, because it was she who ran there. Irene said that because of her the uncle became like this, and then we see Khan, who turned into a statue. Irene cried and said that Khan had covered for her. However, Ja tried to calm her down and asked her not to worry about it. Ja's advice was to simply apologize to Zigg when they were done with the jellyfish. Irene stopped crying and smiled and said that despite her fear, she would try to pull herself together. Ja said she doesn't know how to fight a monster whose attacks turn her to stone. The guy with the monocle told her not to worry about it. After all, he took it just in case. He took out a magic mirror, this magic mirror that can reflect anything. We flash back to Loki and see him continue to fight the jellyfish. Medusa laughed and said that it seemed his strength was running out. But suddenly, Irene cast a healing, light shield, and light cannon spell on Loki. Thus, she completely healed Loki. The heroes then began to attack the jellyfish together, with Irene shooting a huge flame and Ja using a burst shot. These two blows together hit the jellyfish and she screamed. This caused an explosion. The heroes approached Loki and asked how long they had to wait and if he was okay. Loki said he was fine. Irene screamed that she was fine too. She suggested launching a counter-offensive. Ja agreed and said that they would proceed as planned. She tasked Irene with providing Loki with a health and ability booster. Ja instructed Loki to continue to hold the line. The guy with the monocle said that they would go together and rely on Sia's ranged attacks. And so they began the fight. Loki rushed to the attack, and the others helped him from the rear. We see the battlefield from a bird's eye view. Khan stood behind a column and could not move because he was frozen. His petrification should be complete in 7 minutes. Medusa used a poison strike to attack. The guy yelled for Irene to stay back, and Irene signaled to Ja. Irene pulled the bowstring and was ready to shoot. She made a triple powerful strike on the jellyfish. These 3 arrows hit the jellyfish and she threatened to do something to them. However, Loki then entered the battle. He hit her with such force that she flew a considerable distance back. She was lying on the floor muttering something. She got angry and asked if they really wanted to make her angry. The guy with the monocle shouted that this was the second petrification attack and ordered everyone to hide behind the columns. And he instructed Loki to carry out the provocation blow. We then see this guy standing alone against the jellyfish. She has already started casting a stone hurricane spell. The moment she made the attack, this guy took out a magic mirror from his inventory. He pointed the mirror at her. The mirror seemed to reflect her attacks and cause damage to herself. The mirror continued to absorb the attack, and then the jellyfish was attacked with the same power by a stone hurricane. And then it all ended. The heroes ran out from behind the columns and ran towards this guy. Irene happily asked if their plan worked. Just said that everyone did a great job, and then asked if it turned out that the jellyfish had died. However, the guy said that the jellyfish was not dead yet. Irene got scared and screamed. However, the guy urged them not to be afraid, because the petrification attack was reflected through the magic mirror on the jellyfish, and she would no longer be able to free herself. The guy said that you can say that the jellyfish is almost dead and all that remains is to strike the final blow. However, we see that some magical sign suddenly appeared on the jellyfish's chest. This sign depicted a star and two hands supporting a circle. The heroes heard a strange sound. Then the petrification passed. The guy was shocked by this, and the jellyfish immediately began to mock the heroes. She was angry that, as she said, worthless little men thought they could kill her. She again showed her true colors and asked if they seriously thought so. The heroes were frightened and surprised that the jellyfish freed itself, because their magician said that the jellyfish would not be able to free itself from the fossil. The guy said he didn't know how it happened. He invited them to prepare for battle again. But suddenly for the heroes, the jellyfish used the theft of lives. Zhu was shocked by this because she already had less than half her health points. The heroes fainted because they had no HP, all except the magician who was holding a magic mirror. His passive skill Wizard Spirit was activated and he gained resistance to fainting. The guy thought that the jellyfish did not have such an ability. He wondered why the jellyfish was freed from petrification. The magician decided that so be it, he would use the magic mirror again. We then see that the jellyfish used a rock hurricane again. She amazed all the squad members. They were in a state of petrification. They received a notification that the state was active as long as the caster was alive. Medusa took away the magic mirror and said that she had not seen it for a long time. She said that this vile mirror was her only weakness. But according to her, this was the case before she met Deborah. Having broken the mirror, she said that now these children's toys will not go with her. After all, Deborah gave her power. Strength is Deborah's blessing. It is activated automatically when the health indicator becomes less than half. Resistance to all attacks increases, magical defense increases significantly, and it becomes possible to use part of Deborah's magic. Medusa became many times stronger after receiving power from the legendary witch Deborah. She shouted that she had now become omnipotent and invincible. The guy with the monocle was annoyed that everything was not as he thought, because this jellyfish was different from the jellyfish from other dungeons. Medusa smiled and told the heroes that they were lucky. After all, she was finally going to use Deborah's magic on them. We then see her create a huge purple dark ball of mana. The heroes thought that this was the end. But suddenly Kang appeared out of nowhere and cut off the head of the jellyfish with his sword. The head flew off the jellyfish's shoulders and fell to the ground. Medusa died from Kang's sword. The heroes received a notification that they were freed from petrification, and the petrification began to gradually recede. Everyone was surprised by what Zigg did. Kang received a notification that he had defeated the jellyfish. The hero seemed to be angry and dissatisfied with something. However, then we see his sword. This sword turned out to be not simple. Kang was surprised by the capabilities of this sword and seemed very happy about it. We are transported into memories and see how Kang, when he was with the gnome, asked him if he could use his forge. The dwarf asked what Kang was going to do. The hero replied that he was thinking of making himself a weapon from parts of the shield, just in case. Kang thought that although everyone called him the Bolden King of Repairs, his skills in creating weapons were no worse. Kang understood that due to the low level, he would not be able to make Vitex a rank shield again. But instead, using the components of the shield, he can make a weapon suitable for him. And we see that Kang still managed to make a C-rank Memon sword. This item can only be used by a blacksmith. This sword also has a hidden skill, namely that with this weapon you can strike 100% successfully, but only once. However, the whole problem was that this special skill was one time only. This sword was so dear to Kang, the hero wanted to use it in case of emergency, but in the end he regretted spending it on some kind of jellyfish. He wondered if he needed it more than everyone else, but suddenly Zigg grabbed him by the clothes. The heroes began to rejoice and throw Kang above them. Zigg asked him how he managed to defeat the jellyfish with one blow. They began to praise him, but he asked them not to do so. Zigg told Kang not to act like a prude. Irene exclaimed that it was very cool and that she did not expect this from the blacksmith, so she was shocked. Kang was embarrassed and began to deny all their words. However, Zigg interrupted him and said that just like she said, Zigg was incredible. Kang was surprised when he heard this, and then he fell silent and did not resist their rejoicing. Zigg seemed happy about Zigg's words, but suddenly a glow appeared around the heroes, and then they completely disappeared from the spot. They moved to the secret room of the Ice Palace. Irene said they seemed to have been fooled. She shouted that there was nothing here. The guy wondered if this was the room with awards. After all, according to him, if you think about it, it's strange that no one has yet managed to complete the dungeon. He said that maybe the jellyfish wasn't the big boss. However, Kang said he doesn't think so. After all, the jellyfish belongs to the list of boss characters. She even had hidden abilities. Kang said he felt like there was some kind of secret hidden in this room. Suddenly, the stone table on which Kang had rested his hand broke and Kang fell to the ground. He took in his hand what had crumbled and looked at it a little and was surprised. He covered his face with one hand and began to laugh. Then he began to laugh even louder and then at the top of his voice. His comrades could not understand what happened to Khan. Suddenly he ran up to Sia and, showing her the stone, exclaimed that it was lime. Khan looked mad and said it was smeared on the table and then asked if they still didn't understand. The guy with the monocle said that everything was clear to him. He said that there was definitely some reason why lime was spread on the stone table. The guy wanted to tell him what this meant, but Khan did not let him finish and said that it was true. Khan turned around and walked back to the table. As he approached, he used the structure. He then swung his hammer at the table. He hit and the table crumbled. He smiled and said that the secret was hidden inside. Then we see that under the lime there were some drawings. They depicted people and animals, and also fire-breathing dragons that burn everyone. In addition, there was a picture of a fortress that stood on a small piece of land. Irene said that Khan was incredible and she knew he could be trusted, and Ja asked how he found it. Khan replied that it was generally simple. Ja said that it looked like a fresco and that there was something written there, but the letters were kind of strange. The guy with the monocle said he would read it now. Suddenly he used his monocle, whose special skill is deciphering runes. On the table was written about the ancient Mycenaean civilization. It was written there that imitators of God would be destroyed for their arrogance. The destruction time of the air fortress was 7 hours and 28 minutes. There was also the question of whether they would stop time and go back in time. Then the heroes were frightened by the ringing of a bell, which was made by a clock nearby. Suddenly some signs appeared under them and the floor lit up. The light was so strong that it blinded the heroes. Khan realized that this was a magical teleportation circle. Then we are transported to the real world, to the Dream Max building. We see a man sitting behind a chair and Director Chin. The man said that they had discovered the air fortress in just 2 weeks. He said everything was going as he planned, and he added that it's still good that they postponed the update. This man said that if everything goes as they planned, it will be written about everywhere. Chin agreed with the director. He was holding a folder in his hands with pictures of Zigg and Ja. Chin said he will continue to work as planned. We are transported again to Khan and see how he and the rest of the heroes were transported somewhere. They received a notification that they had completed the passage of the Ice Palace. There was also a notice that the Mycenaean air fortress had been discovered by them for the first time. They were given 2,000 reputation points and the title of Discoverer of the Air Fortress. Then the guy said that now it's clear to him. Finding this place is the reward for completing the Ice Palace. Then someone with hooves instead of legs approached the heroes and asked if they were a guild whose name was Sia's family. It turned out to be a goat who speaks humanly. He said he went out to meet them. The action still takes place in the air fortress of Mycenae, but in the royal palace. The goat told His Highness that he had guests. Then the gates began to open. The heroes did not understand what was happening. When the gates opened, the heroes saw that the king was sitting there, and soldiers were standing along the red carpet, but none of the soldiers were human. The king introduced himself. His name is Ivanius III. He is the only king of the kingdom of Mycenae. He is level 120th, and he himself is the spirit of the king of an ancient kingdom. Ja and Irene got scared, thinking it was a ghost. The guy said that this is a spirit that could not go into oblivion due to attachment to this world. Then Ja got even more scared and thought that it was a ghostly monster. Irene said that she would quickly send the king to the next world. She wanted to use lightning, but the king immediately snapped his fingers, after which her weapon seemed to disappear. Ivania said that he was welcoming guests for the first time in 300 years. Therefore, he asked the guests to calm down and listen to him. Ivanius began the story of how their kingdom of Mycenae had flourished for thousands of years. Their magical technologies brought income to the whole world. Using them as a basis, they ruled the kingdom peacefully. But the problem was that these technologies were too advanced. Mycenae was accused of trespassing on divine domains. Ivany, who barely survived, and several other people from his people escaped on this air fortress. As a result, Ivany found himself locked underground and became a spirit. The heroes asked about the possessions of God. Ivany replied that this is a story about chimeras. They receive punishment for their creation. But Ivany does not repent of what he did. He thought from the side that if the desire to learn and study new things is a sin, then God is guilty, who created people so curious. Ivania is very upset that the knowledge about magic that he and his people collected and the truth and the history of everything is disappearing. Ivany asked the heroes. He said that this air fortress is the only legacy of their kingdom. He wants to restore this fortress and tell future generations about the exploits of Mycenae. He asked the heroes if they could fulfill his request. They received a quest to reconstruct the air fortress. The guy with the monocle wondered what to do, but Irene exclaimed that she agreed because she felt sorry for the old king. She said that although she doesn't like ghosts, she will participate in the quest. Khan replied that he was also in favor because hidden quests are a rarity in the game. However, Khan had another reason, namely that the thing about Arpedia was that refusing the quest could lead to an unexpected fight. And if you fight with these chimeras, then loss is guaranteed. He decided that if the reward turned out to be so-so, he could always quit midway through. All group members then accepted the quest. They received a notification that each participant would receive suitable personal tasks. Zigg was given the task of restarting the fortress's air reactor. He was a little scared that the conditions were so difficult. After all, to fulfill all the conditions, he needs the skill of precisely assembling the 6th level, and this will take a lot of time, because at the moment this skill has not been studied by Kang. She asked the group members what tasks they received. She said that she was instructed to go to the elven forest and bring some kind of stone. The guy with the monocle said that he needed to draw a floating magic circle in the very foundation of the fortress. He said that he would have to go to Norton Tower to learn hovering spells. Irene was tasked with collecting holy water in Romney, but she didn't even know where it was. Loki said he needed to track down Deborah's whereabouts. Having heard all this, Kang realized that he had an even more or less tolerable task. The chimeras then gave the heroes gifts that the king had prepared especially for them. The snake chimeras said that the king hoped that they would make every effort to restore the air fortress. They were surprised, because all the items look very cool and they are all of epic level. The heroes were surprised that they hadn't even completed the quest yet, and they were already being given this. Kang was given a C-rank sacred rune jacket, which increases skill by 10 and stamina by 100. He was pleasantly surprised by this because he had just accepted the quest and had already received such an item immediately. Kang was wondering what they would give after completing the quest. He thought that this might be the largest quest in history. The guy with the monocle asked King Ivania if he could ask a question. The guy said that according to Ivany, they are his first guests in 300 years. Then the guy asked if it turns out that 300 years ago the witch Deborah was visiting Ivania. Ivany got angry and said that it was so. This woman, according to him, this ungrateful woman promised to restore the fortress, but instead she scouted out knowledge about Mycenae and fled. The guy realized that this is why the Ice Palace is connected with this place. Khan said he also had a question. Ivany asked what question Kang had. The hero asked where to go to get to the ground. However, King Ivanius briefly answered that he did not know because he had never tried to go out. We are transported to another location. Many players stood there and looked at the top of the mountain, namely the Ice Palace. The girl said that for 2 weeks nothing was heard about his passage. The guy asked how difficult it was to pass. Suddenly someone turned to these two adventurers. It turned out to be Liz. She asked if they had taken the magic mirror with them. The guy asked why it was needed. And then Liz said that it was immediately clear that this guy was not looking for information on the internet. She talked about rumors that the boss there is a cruel, nasty jellyfish. The player got scared when he heard this and asked where the jellyfish could be here. He was scared and said that he did not have a magic mirror. He did not know what to do if he suddenly turned into stone. Liz said that this is when the player might need a merchant like her. But suddenly, behind Liz, who was standing in front of the ice block, someone hit the ice with a pickaxe. This block began to crack, and then our heroes fell out of it screaming. The heroes came out from there and other players approached them. Khan said that he was right when he said that if they dig in the direction where the sound of the wind is heard, they will get out. Seeing our heroes, other players were shocked. They wondered if they had come out of the wall. Then they started talking about the titles of our heroes. The titles said that they were the pioneers of the air fortress, but the players did not know about the air fortress. They thought that another new dungeon had been released. Suddenly we see that a player ran up to some girl and said that he had learned that those who had passed the Ice Palace had appeared and the pioneers were called Sia's family. Someone from the crowd shouted that they urgently needed to call Gilma. We are then transported to the real world and see Kang standing in front of a mirror, clutching his hair, wondering what to do. He was upset about something and thought that he was in trouble. We see a flashback in which she said that it would be impossible to discuss the quest calmly here now. The guy with the monocle asked how they felt about talking in real life. Irene immediately agreed. We are transported back to reality and see Kang, who really does not want to meet in real life. He understood that he had a very cool image in the game, but if they saw him in life, they would definitely be disappointed. He already wanted not to go and wondered what to do. Then we are transported somewhere and see how the girl introduces herself as the gaming nun Terry and says that this is the fastest news on Arpedia Online. Then the second one appeared. She said that her name was Pam. The first news about the case that excited all the forum participants last night. Terry said that suddenly a new area appeared, a fallen air tower. Terry said that according to eyewitnesses, this air fortress is connected with the Ice Palace that was recently discovered in Nosarka. Pan wondered what the air fortress had to do with the Ice Palace and whether it had anything to do with Deborah. She asked if the players were eager to find out too. Pan said people think the discoverers know the way to solving the mystery. We see that it was a news broadcast. We then see Ja and the other guild members sitting in a cafe. The magician said that they earned problems on their own heads. Irene indignantly asked why they were banned from entering the game. The magician said that this was the problem, because too much attention was focused on them. They opened a new dungeon and even a new territory. People will run after them to get information, and those obsessed with the game can even go as far as murder. Irene got angry and shouted that she would tell them to attack and teach everyone a lesson. In real life, Irene's name is YuHan. So far, YuHan, the magician guy, and Loki have come to the meeting. As soon as they remembered Zigg, someone suddenly entered the room. Then we see a man come in and apologize to those sitting. It turned out to be Kang. He apologized for being a little late. The action takes place in the same cafe. YuHan exclaimed that this cannot be. She asked if this guy was the same guy from the game, because he didn't look like him at all. She agreed with her and said that Zigg in the game is not at all the same as in life. The magician said that in the game Zigg is frail, but in life he is pumped up. Khan thought that since he started going to the gym, his body had really improved, and then wondered if it was really that noticeable. Irene invited everyone to meet and introduced herself. She said that she is a student at Sejin High School and came into the game right after Ki-rin, but now her level is higher than her. Kang was surprised because he would never have thought that YuHan was in high school. Then the magician introduced himself. His name is Kim Junsu. He is 25 years old. He studies at Hallam University, and Ja and he are also in the same university club. Then Loki introduced himself. His name is Pyo Ji-hoon. He is 26. He is a mixed martial arts athlete and goes to the same gym with Kang. Kang misunderstood Hong and wondered what the seal had to do with it. Kang asked Hoon if he meant dojo. Hong replied that it was, and then said that this was the hall of Ki-rin's family. Ju was surprised and asked Kang if he also goes to her dad's gym. She then said that she was shocked because the world is so small. Suddenly Kang became nervous. He asked her if her father's name was Song Ti-soo. She replied that it was her dad's name. He then told Ki-rin that he was Kang YuHan, the eldest son of the owner of Hanbok Supermarket. Ki-rin was so surprised that she screamed throughout the street. Kim then said that to put it briefly, it turns out that Ki-rin and Kang are childhood friends and Ji-hoon already knew about it. She indignantly asked him why he didn't say this earlier. However, Hong, not really understanding, asked why. Ki-rin became nervous and began to think out loud about how she didn't find out right away. Now she understood why Kang seemed so familiar. She decided to skip this moment and, holding out her hand, told Kang that she was a little late with her greeting. She said that she and Khan had not seen each other for a long time. Khan also reached out and shook her hand. Ki-rin said that she was glad to meet him again. YuHan nervously looked at Kang and Ki-rin. She interrupted them and insistently suggested that they get to the point because they had gathered to discuss the quest. She offered to talk about the quest, and Kim agreed with her and suggested starting. And so the heroes began to discuss the quest. Time passed, and they were still talking, and in the end exactly an hour passed from the moment they started the discussion. They left the cafe and stood near it. Khan said that he lived on the other side and said goodbye to them. Before Kang left, Ki-rin asked him to wait. She asked him for his number, and Kim and Hoon joined her, but YuHan started whining that a girl couldn't be the first to ask a guy for a number. Khan was surprised by this and a little confused. After some time, we see that he has the numbers of all the guild members written down. He said that he had not exchanged contact information with anyone for a long time. He thought about whether he should call, but immediately discarded this thought because they agreed to call after completing the quest. Suddenly the phone began to ring in his hands and Kang became scared. He almost dropped the phone. Khan wondered who it could be. He was delighted and wondered if it was Ki-rin. However, looking at the screen, he saw that some unknown number was calling him. Khan answered the call, but the person who called Khan greeted him and called him Bartz. And then he asked if he should call him Zigg now. Khan asked the man who he was. This man took pleasure in mocking Khan. He said that he was the one who removed Bartz. Kang was very angry and left. This hacker asked what it was like for Khan to upgrade his new Persian again. Kang yelled at the hacker in a rage. Kang asked him what he needed now because he had already hacked Kang's account and now he was gloating. This person asked why Kang was so angry because in the game he was nice to him. Kang was shocked. Kang asked if they had met the hacker in the game. The hacker said that they had met and grinned and asked if Kang had forgotten. The hero asked who this hacker was anyway. The hacker, calling Khan a friend, asked him to calm down. According to him, he did not call in order to swear. However, Kang was on edge. He was very angry and tense. Kang immediately calmed down and sat down on the bench. He asked what the hacker needed. The hacker offered to make a bet. The hacker said that, as I already said, he plays Arpedia, and he plays in order to get rid of all the hacked items. Therefore, while the hacker deals with the items, he suggested playing hide and seek. The hacker said that if Khan could catch him, he would return Bartz to the hero. Since the hacker is advanced, it won't be difficult to get one Persian back. Kang asked what would happen if the hacker was not caught. The hacker thought about it and said that he didn't even know. And then something occurred to him. He said that if Kang couldn't, he would remove the blacksmith as well. Kang thought for a moment, then said that they had an agreement. Kang then said in anger that if he caught her, he would kill her without hesitation. Kang was sitting in a public place and shouted that he hated the hacker. Then we are transported somewhere and see a person languidly talking about something. The action takes place in the cybersecurity department. This man said that he could not trace it. He advised Kang to drop the case. After all, the hacker, according to him, acted very carefully and cunningly, so even the National Intelligence Service is unlikely to be able to track him down. Kang was annoyed and sighed heavily. Kang walked back home and said that he knew they wouldn't help him, but it was worth a try. Then he started thinking about what the hacker said, that they had seen him before in the game. Kang was about to suspect someone, but suddenly he slapped himself in the face. This was how he wanted to come to his senses, because he didn't want to suspect people without proof. He decided that there was no need to fall for pointless tricks. After all, in any case, he will stick to his plan. Then we are transported to Arpedia and see a bag of hearts. He decided that he would raise the reputation of the blacksmith and track the movements and sales of weapons. Kang told the dwarf that he had brought 30 new model wooden soldier hearts. He said it was the dwarf's turn and asked me to teach him how to sort things. The dwarf was happy and said that he would now be able to complete work on Max Dragon. He decided that he should immediately check if these hearts fit. However, Kang started shouting at the dwarf that he had promised to take him as an apprentice. The dwarf said he'd forgotten. Then he reached into the cache somewhere. He took out a tray with a book and tools and gave it to Kang. Kang asked what it was. The blacksmith replied that they were training materials, Blacksmith Gully's training kit. The dwarf said that this book contains all the basics of crafting. He instructed Kang to read it carefully and learn from it. Then the dwarf immediately ran away. Kang had a lot of work to do. Kang wasn't happy about being trained like this, as he thought it was a setup. However, he decided that he would just think that he was studying a skill book. He opened Galley's training diary. When he started reading it, he was surprised. The book was written about disassembly and assembly. Kang was thrilled that the book even mentioned the precision assembly skill. Then Kang opened the quest. He remembered that this skill was just what he needed to complete the Mycenae quest. Kang realized that he shouldn't have blamed the dwarf for the setup and said that he underestimated Gully. He exclaimed that it was the best book. He said that he would learn all the techniques described in the book. Then we see how he broke the consumable. He was desperate and didn't know what to do. He was angry that even with his understanding of structures, he couldn't do anything. After all, this iron board is very fragile. The book says that disassembly requires damage to be dealt, but the item's durability is very low. Kang was afraid to even think about the exact assembly if it didn't work out by disassembly, because even structures don't help. Kang was already thinking of giving it up, because if he gave it up, there wouldn't be this. However, he remembered about the hacker who deleted his Bartz. Just thinking about it made him angry. He exclaimed that he would never give up and would try until it worked. Then we are transported to the bar and see a pint of beer. It was Liz, who was upset that her trade had failed. She blamed Zigg for everything. However, then she hesitated and said that she should have stuck and followed them. She envied the fact that, according to her, the heroes were lucky to get gold in quests of the ancient city because she also wants it so much. She said the crazy guy smelled like money. Suddenly all the people started running out of the bar because something happened on the street. Liz already thought that someone was moving away and distributing their items. However, someone told her that something cooler was going on. Everyone was shocked by something that was happening in the middle of the city. Kang, meanwhile, was lying unconscious. We also see the gnome Gully, who is shocked. A dragon appeared in the center of the city. After some time, we see that Kang still managed to reach the goal. He had acquired the disassembly skill, and the notification also said that the level of material losses decreases with increasing rank. Then, he decided to put the parts together. He took 3 parts and tried to put them together. He received a notification that the assembly of the clockwork was successful. Kang was very happy that he finally had it. He took a screenshot of how it stands with a successfully assembled watch. He said that this is an important moment for him, so it's better to take a screenshot. But suddenly something happened and Kang was afraid. Suddenly there was an explosion in the next room. All of these moments were captured as well, namely Kang being shocked, then the mechanical dragon, and then flying out into the city. Then we see Dylan looking up at the dragon in the sky. He suggested what type of event it was, and Dylan said it was amazing. All the residents and players were running away. However, Dylan said that he liked it and would like to join, but he had to work and find Zigg first. Dylan, who was almost landed on by the dragon, said that it was because Kang ordered a large amount of iron and doesn't write messages. Then the dragon crushed Dylan with its mechanical paw. He died of it. The players shouted and couldn't understand what it was. They thought that this dragon was a boss mob that had appeared in the city. They were shouting to save the dwarf. They shouted to avoid NPCs. The players were also panicking as they wondered where the dragon was going. Liz was also shocked because people are dying here because of a dragon that appeared out of nowhere. But it turned out that she wasn't upset at all. On the contrary, she was glad that she was so lucky. She started farming items that fell from the players, trying to choose expensive ones. She even found an epic item. She ran around the city picking up items. She found something that wasn't even sold at auction. After collecting the bags, she said that she was glad that she had come to the north. But then something pushed her forward. It was a mechanical dragon. The dragon was preparing to fire magic at her. Sitting right in front of him, she could only wonder why the dragon was here. The dragon was almost ready to kill her. She was scared and screaming. Then we see that something has happened to the dragon's heart. Liz screamed and cried. Suddenly there was an explosion. The dragon fell. Liz calmed down, but she still couldn't understand what had happened. Then we are transferred to the Nosark court. We see Khan shouting about being objective. Kang exclaimed that he had nothing to do with the tin can that destroyed the village. He said he was just a tourist and was at home. Gali confirmed Khan's words and said that he and Khan are not colleagues. This surprised Khan for some reason. The hero was touched by the fact that Gali was really trying to get him off the hook. Gully then exclaimed and said that Khan couldn't be his companion. Gully said that Khan was just an errand boy, and he would never have trusted Kang with the first place. According to him, if it wasn't for Kang, the mechanical dragon would be fine. Then Kang and Gali started fighting, calling each other names in parallel. The judge asked for silence. Then he said that Gully joined forces with the humans and created a mechanical dragon and destroyed the village. The judge asked if Gali admitted that he had caused a huge amount of damage to the village. But Gully became indignant and said that if the Federation accepted his offer and joined the creation of a mechanical dragon, then such damage would not have been committed. Gali said that to put it another way, the incident occurred because the Federation ignored his proposal. Gully turned to the jury and asked them if they had a good view of the mechanical dragon. Gali said that when he announced his project, everyone laughed and said that the dragon can't even crawl, let alone fly. But what was the result? Asked Gully. He said so much work was done at a low cost and in harsh conditions. The dwarf told the judge that if they had listened to him and accepted him instead of ridicule, such problems would not have happened. Kang was surprised by something. Khan wondered if Gully was really mad. After all, if Gali continued like this, he would be in jail for the rest of his life. Khan couldn't understand why Gully was so proud. He was too weak to escape from prison. Kang was already prepared to be killed because he might resurrect. The jury, meanwhile, whispered that Gully was right about something, because the breath of this scrap metal had destroyed the Great Wall. The jurors whispered that since the dragon had destroyed the wall in this way, it would be able to resist the dragon's breath. So if they did everything right, they might actually be able to stand up to Anjura's. The judge hammered and asked for silence. The judge said that everything is fine and this court recognizes that this incident was not Gali's intention. Kang was shocked and couldn't tell if it was real. The judge added that, however, the damage they caused is enormous. The judge said that they will cover the production costs and within a month will produce a product equivalent to the damage caused. The judge sentenced them to create a weapon capable of defeating Anjura's. However, the judge said that if this is not done, then he turned to the dwarf Gully and the human Zigg. The judge said that in this case, he would sentence them both to life in prison. Kang was shocked. Then we see Gully and Khan standing in the middle of the rubble and the hero yelling. Kang whined and asked why Gully said that. Khan wondered if he would rot because of Gali in prison. However, Gali was calm and asked Khan not to worry. After all, he said it after thinking carefully. Khan suddenly stopped whining and said with delight that this was exactly what he expected from Master Gully. The dwarf put a hand on Khan's shoulder, and he said it was Zigg. Gully said that Khan needed to visit the Fire Mountain. The dwarf said that it looked like the reason the mechanical dragon went berserk was because the energy release was too strong, but the opposite was actually true. Khan was about to leave, but Gully grabbed his arm with his prosthetic leg and told him to get down to business. Khan shouted for Gully to let him go and tell him that he was going to run because he had seen this place. However, Gully said that the reward would not disappoint him, so he simply asked to obey. Khan calmed down when he heard about the reward and asked Gali about it. The dwarf said it was a glove he made himself. It can set iron on fire with a simple action. It will not break under any circumstances because it is made of special material. Gully also promised that if the mission was completed successfully, he would teach Khan the secret knowledge of the dwarves. Kang smiled and immediately put on a glove and asked what he should do. Gully said he always liked that Khan was always a snob. The dwarf said that Khan didn't need to do anything special, just bring some dragon hearts from the Fire Mountains. Khan was so enthusiastic about his new gauntlet that he agreed to the task and repeated for Gali that he needed to bring the dragon's heart from Fire Mountain. Kanu came to collect the dragon's heart quest. Khan needs to go to their habitat and get the dragon's heart. The task completion period is 1 month in game time. The dragon's heart is the source of dragon life and magic. Khan needs to hunt a dragon and get a heart, which has an extremely low 1% chance of falling out. This is a very rare item that can only be obtained by finding the resting place of a dragon that has reached the end of its life. Khan reflected that even playing as Bartz, he hadn't won a single heart. The dwarf related a story he had overheard while staying in the elven village some time ago. It is said that the dragon, who was friendly with the previous head of the elven village, went to rest on the fire mountain. The dwarf said that there must be a dragon's heart sleeping somewhere on the mountain of fire. Khan wondered if Gali was telling him to just trust this kind of vague information, and if he really wanted Khan to go to such a faraway place. Then Kang decided that even the distance didn't matter since the recommended level for the fire mountains was 80. Kang imagined fragrant sulfur dioxide, reliable monsters, and warm lava. After some time, we see Kang already flying in a hot air balloon. He says that if something happens, he will run away. While Kang was flying, Liz tracked him down and she was clearly up to something. Unsuspecting, Kang practiced precise assembly. He was assembling this mechanism, but suddenly something caught on the rope. The basket was shaken and Kang was startled. Kang thought that the balloon had exploded, but when he looked around, he saw that Liz was clinging to his basket. Her expression was really scary, she looked crazy, so Kang got scared and screamed. He asked her why she was here and called her a fraud. He called her names and told her not to touch other people's equipment. Liz yelled that he was annoying her, she yelled and ordered him to help her up right away. And then we see that Kang helped her after all, and now they're flying together. Kang told her that he almost fell down because of her and that she scared the hell out of him. He said he helped her up anyway, just like she asked. Then he ordered her to scram, because this is private equipment. She said she wouldn't really do it, because she didn't want to miss it this time. Kang didn't understand what she was saying either. She chuckled and asked if Kang thought she didn't know. She enthusiastically asked if Kang was flying to the Air Fortress quest. She asked him what would happen this time. Liz suggested a secret civilization, a golden fortress, and a dungeon guarded by a golem that is made of precious stones. And so 3 days passed from that moment. When they arrived at the scene, Kang was saying something, but Liz was so shocked that she didn't hear it. They came to the fire mountains. Liz shouted indignantly. She fell to her knees and started whining. Kang didn't care and said he was busy with work, so he was leaving. She got angry and grabbed his jacket and asked him where he was going. Liz said he should explain to her why they were here. She indignantly asked him why he had come here. Liz kept whining and said these mountains smelled awful, and she said that it was a place where if you stumble, you can drown in lava. Moreover, there are 80-level scorpions present. Kang turned around and actually saw a scorpion approaching them. This mob is a scorpion soldier, a level 80 creature that lives in a tunnel under the volcanic zone. An unintelligent insect-type monster. The scorpion started attacking them and Liz in the first place, she wondered why this was always happening to her. She hid behind Kang and shouted at him to do something quickly, but Kang was also scared and didn't know what to do. Liz said that she couldn't help because she was just a worker, to which Kang replied that he was also a worker. Kang was dissatisfied with the current situation and thought about how he couldn't do it. However, he then decided that he could still handle one scorpion by himself. However, we see that there is not one scorpion at all, but an entire army. Kang realized that he was mistaken. Liz started yelling at Khan because he didn't do anything. She ordered him to fight. But all Kang could think of was that Mimon wouldn't fall. The scorpion was already very close and Liz yelled at Khan to hurry up. Suddenly, something flew past Liz's face quickly. This item hit the scorpion's armor. It was a huge arrow. They initially thought it was an arrow, but then realized that it was actually a spear. Suddenly, someone big appeared behind them. It was a red creature of some sort. These creatures began to fight with scorpions. There were many of them and they were able to defeat the scorpion. It turned out that they were lizardmen. Lizardmen, a level 58 creature. A reptilian man who fights with a spear and has the intelligence of a toddler. They were not without difficulty, but they penetrated the armor of scorpions. You can see that these lizardmen have killed all the scorpions. They were standing over them, doing something. Kang suddenly turned to them, and it was obvious that he was very nervous. He said he didn't know what it was, but they helped them. Kang added that such things happen in life. Kang asked how well he could communicate since he was a lizardman. The hero thanked them for their help, but suddenly Khan and Liz were tied up. The bound heroes were surrounded by the lizardmen. Liz and Kang were very scared. Then, apparently, their leader came out and said that their territory was invaded. He pointed his weapon at them and ordered them to make a sacrifice. This creature is a level 72 lizard warrior, and it is a larger and stronger individual than the average lizardman. Kang knew it was serious because they might get killed. That's how this video ends. If you have sat through to the end, please don't forget to press the subscribe button and leave feedback. See you in the next video.